Hello, you lovely YouTube listeners. What you have loaded up here is a mashup of our two Eileen Grimshaw character profiles. Well, kind of a mashup. We're basically going to do the old one first, then the new one. The old one we recorded back in episode 32 of Conversation Street, which was way back in 2013. And as is the case back then, it's a very short profile. The sound quality is terrible, but it gives you a quick rundown of what Eileen had been up to for the first 13 years that she was on Coronation Street. And then after that comes our brand new, spanking new profile of her, which is everything since, really. It's much better, but we thought we'd include them together here as a bit of a bonus. You can use the timestamps in the notes if you want to skip ahead to the new bit. But anyway, here it is. We love a bit of Eileen. We presume you do too. Hope you enjoy this profile. This pair of profiles.
Character profile time, and this time we are doing Eileen Grimshaw.
Because it's Mother's Day coming up soon, and she is
someone's mum.
Yeah, she's two people's mums. Also, she was in episodes this week.
And you put a note. See also Jason in episode 17 and Julie in episode 26.
Yeah, because we've already done a bit of the Grimshaws or Carps. So we're going to try not to repeat ourselves. So if you want to know even more about the lovely Eileen, then you can look at episode 17 and 26. And we've got some other excellent character profiles.
I was going to do all the talking because you just ate a sweet again. So let me say this. She was born on the 7th of October in 1961, which makes her a Libra, which is the best star sign to be. Her father was Colin Grimshaw, and her half-sister is Julie Cobb.
Revelation a few years ago.
She's got two children, Jason Grimshaw, who's born in 1983.
Like me.
And Todd Grimshaw, who's born in 1985. Her first appearance was on the 3rd of May, the year 2000, and she's been in just under 1,350 episodes. And she is played by Sue Cleaver.
She's been in it quite a long time now. She's like
13 years.
A long-staying character, I think you can say.
I'd like characters that arrived in the year 2000 because you can easily work out how long they've been in it. I've only got a B in maths.
She hasn't had very many big storylines, or either that or the internet's not very good at listing them.
I think she's mostly there to laugh at Gail, isn't she?
She's always she is. She's kind of one of these one-liner characters.
Like Norris, who doesn't really have their own storylines, but they're always embroiled in other people's.
Yeah, I guess she's in it a bit more than Norris because she's got a family, so she's often kind of there in the background
Norris
a little
has
bit.
A brother.
No, he doesn't. He's dead.
I said had.
Oh. Right, so in 2000, she was introduced when she was picked up in a cab by Vikram, and she managed to persuade him into giving her a job at the newly opened streetcars. And then later that year, she moved into number 11 with Jason and Todd, and they were renting it from Steve at the time. And I remember being very, very happy when I found out that they were going to be moving into the street as a family, because when they brought Eileen in, she was utterly hilarious, and she still is a funny character, but she had so many witty sort of one-liners, and there were all the put-downs between her and Steve. Very, very hilarious. So yeah, they've got a really good... They used to, and they still do a bit to have lots of good banter.
I think Lloyd kind of blocks a lot of that, because most of the work scenes are with Steve and Lloyd now.
Yeah, but I was still glad last year when she got the job back at the taxi firm again, because she wasn't working there for a little bit.
Don't spoil it. Let's get...
Go on then.
2001, she falls in love with Dennis Stringer. He takes her to Paris. What?
I was just going to say that he was a Hell's Angel.
Oh.
We know somebody's a Hell's Angel.
He took her to Paris for her 40th, but ended up leaving her for Janice.
Oh, the cad.
And they had an ecky thump.
Yeah, they had a punch up. Yeah, Dennis was lovely. He was an ex Hell's Angel, and he was very kind of nice and cheerful and kind of just a nice old guy. And I was a bit gutted when he left Eileen, because I thought that she'd finally found love, but he was only one of many men that she ended up with.
And he also died in 2002 in a car crash while rushing Les to hospital after a suicide attempt.
Yeah, I think Les must have been trying to commit suicide or something because of the fact that Janice was...
Suicide attempt.
So Dennis bravely sprang to the rescue, even though he was...
It's very brave to drive someone to the hospital.
Well, he had to swallow his pride a bit because he and Les were rivals for Janice's affections.
What, so you just leave him to die? Yeah. Like, sorry mate, I can't swallow my pride on this one. You have to phone an ambulance.
Yeah, so he died. He had a bit of a car crash. That was an exciting episode.
Bit of a car crash. 2002, he started... Not he.
She started.
Dating Harry Flagg. But they decided to remain friends.
No, I bet you don't remember Harry Flagg, do you?
No.
No, he was, and I had to look him up as well. He was a kind of a background kind of cleaner slash potman slash cellarman at the Rovers, and he was one of these total background characters that never really did very much. But,
Well, he left to go on tour in Europe in 2004, so I think you'll find he's actually a bit more exciting than Coronation Street would have you believe.
but she said no. They were just friends, and she didn't want to go after him. So he wasn't the one for her.
No.
Neither, of course, was Jason's dad, who returned. Well, he returned to see Eileen, but it was the first time we'd seen him in 2003. And he stole money from streetcars and blamed it on her. And we talked about that
What a diamond.
when we did Jason, so we won't go on with that. In 2004, now that was when Todd started dating Sarah Louise before he realised that he was actually gay, and she didn't like the idea of him going out with her because she thought that he was better than her. She had all these aspirations of him going to Oxford, and she just saw Sarah Lou as like this flaggy girl across the street.
With a kid.
Oh yeah, exactly. She had Bethany at the time, so Eileen wasn't interested in that. And then obviously that storyline later developed with Todd kissing Nick and then coming out, and of course the amazing scene of Gail and Eileen having that punch up on the cobbles. Everyone remembers that brilliant scene. Yeah, and Todd moved to London that year. Have we seen him since? I think he's been back a little bit.
And that's when Sean moved in as a lodger.
Yeah, Todd had to go off because then he was in those few episodes of Doctor Who. Do you remember him in that?
Vaguely.
He got a little portal thing stuck in his head, a little trapdoor. Did you like Todd?
No.
He was alright. I thought he was alright. He's a bit boring, but
It's a bit
I wouldn't
wet.
mind him being back. He was a little bit wet. He was like an
Wet.
intelligent. He was like a young boy, but wasn't one of these laddish ones. He wasn't like Tommy
No,
Duckworth.
they can't. I'm sorry. They seem to have. They're either wet blankets or they're total chavs.
Yeah. I can't think of anyone else actually who doesn't fit that description. In 2005, there's somebody else that catches Eileen's eye. Reflexologist Phil Nail. Now we know that name because we talked about him when we did Gail's character profile.
He ends up with her.
Yeah, the rivalry between Eileen and Gail carries on, but yeah, he ends up with Gail in the end. So another unlucky in love moment for Eileen there. In 2006, and now this was a good storyline. She started seeing Ed Jackson, who was an ex-con, and he was a bit of a born-again Christian. I don't know how they met. I can't remember. Maybe she was helping out the church.
Internet dating site.
I can't remember.
Let's say it was that.
But anyway, it turns out that he was actually the one that shot Ernest Bishop back in 1978.
Back in 78, you say?
I think so.
Shot old Ernie?
Roughly.
What?
Yeah. And obviously the whole street are against that because it brings Emily into it, and she can't bring herself to forgive him, which is very un-Emily like because of being a Christian. I think she does in the end, but
Reluctantly.
yeah. But he decides that he's got to leave
The street.
Eileen because even though she knows what he's done, she's willing to give it a go with him because
She's desperate.
he seemed nice for her. So he leaves anyway. And then later on that year, she's accused of sending these cards to Gail, who are the ones that David sent, because
The ones that were pretending to be
Richard
from her.
Hillman.
Yeah. So that didn't go down so well for her.
Well, it did when it revealed
Well,
that she
no,
didn't do it.
okay. 2007, she briefly helps Jason to look after his daughter Holly, who was not really his daughter at all.
Yeah.
Was she not the one that named her as well, I think?
Oh, he came at Christmas.
I
let's
shall
call
call her
Holly.
Coral.
Yeah. So actually, Eileen's really, really attached to Holly, even more so than Jason is. And I think maybe Eileen always wanted to have a little daughter, so she was absolutely gutted when the social services
comes
and says, "Oh,
it's Charlie's."
It's Charlie Stubbs' baby," which is a bit gutting. So I think she was going to run away, and then somebody, I can't remember, convinced her not to, so she tearfully handed over the baby. Later that year, she fell for Pat, who was this Irish bloke, and I didn't remember what he looked like at all. Apparently he was in it for 12 episodes.
Was his name Pat O'Brien, when it asked?
I do not remember.
Might as well have been.
Well, she thought that he was married, and she actually quite liked the idea of having an affair. She liked being the other woman for once. But actually, it turned out that he was a bit of a womanizer, and he was just dating 7 women at once, and she was one of many.
No, that's not what you want to be, the special one that you're having an affair with.
Now, that 2007 also saw the memorable episodes in Malta with Steve McDonald. Remember, they went on holiday there and they ended up having to share a room together. And then Steve
wacky shenanigans.
Steve had wacky shenanigans with somebody who wasn't quite what she seemed.
This was dreadful.
What did we learn about those Malta episodes? That they had to film some episodes in Malta because they were doing something on the set or something at the time. Do you remember?
I don't know, but it was incredibly transphobic. It was. I honestly couldn't believe that they made a trans woman into a punchline. It's really inappropriate.
In 2008, she started dating. How many have we had now? 7, 8. Jerry Morton, but she left him when he put his large family first. Because he had loads of little children running around. And then later on in the year, we meet Eileen's dad, Colin, who was a bit of a flaky but one who always.
Or if you're American, Colin.
Oh yeah, and he came and
saw and conquered and went.
Yeah, and she also met Jesse that year as well.
I remember him.
Yes, we're starting to get into Gemma's memories of the show now, rather than just pretending she remembers. And yeah, children's entertainer Jesse Chadwick, and she's soon taking on the role of Higher Lower in his hilarious cowboy-themed entertainment
hilariously racist
skit.
Cowboy.
Yeah. And then Julie takes over from that. In 2009, I think early on in the year, the truth comes out about Dad fathering Julie when her mum Paula was only 14, which we covered in the Julie character profile. He dies not long after that, and the whole street shuns him, including Eileen. Well, Julie doesn't, but Eileen does.
Oh, she had many tearful scenes, didn't she, Julie?
Yes.
It's crying about that.
Yeah.
As I remember.
What did you think about them introducing a sister for Eileen after all these time? It was one of these long-lost sibling storylines, which is a little bit cheesy.
I don't remember how I felt about it at all. But I do like Julie, so anything involving Julie I like.
Well, they work really well together, I think, Julie and Eileen.
Yeah, I think so, because Eileen's got her head screwed on straight, and she's always been very down to earth, almost to her own detriment, really. Like, she won't believe in fantasies at all. She never looks.
Whereas Julie
lives in a parallel universe where she rides a unicorn to work.
And that year, Jesse moved into number 11 with his parrot John, who took an instant dislike to Eileen. Comedy storyline. That wasn't really. I'm so glad that Jesse didn't stay in it for very long, because he was incredibly dull.
He was all right.
I wasn't boring.
He was entertaining. He was a children's entertainer.
You have the mind of a child, then, Gemma. In 2010, Jesse left her after he won money at the bookies, and then Eileen thought that he was planning to take her on a whirlwind trip to Egypt, but actually he wanted to take his mum and dad, so she was a bit gutted by that. So
that's like me. I won the lottery and didn't spend it on you, did I?
What?
I won £10, didn't I?
Yeah.
I was going to buy a cake for my mum and dad.
You were a secret millionaire.
No.
And also, it turned out that Jesse had made a pass at Julie anyway, so when he came back from Egypt, they saw him off pretty quickly. She started dating Owen that year. Luckily for her, she had an escape from that, because actually he had eyes for Liz. In 2011, this was after the tram crash, Eileen discovered that her roof had been damaged during the whole...
I don't know how that happened, really.
What?
How did her roof get damaged during the tram crash? I mean, it was just a small tram.
Debris.
It just fell into the corner of the street.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for people to be dying left, right and centre, things to have fallen everywhere. I thought they was made of stern stuff up north.
Mm-hmm. Owen, who is still kind of at loggerheads with Eileen at this, says it'll cost £3,000 to fix. And so Eileen, I think probably...
Can you not get tram insurance if you live on Coronation Street or something?
No.
Oh.
Maybe you can now. Well, Eileen steals and cashes £10,000 cheque from which Carl had written to Owen, and I remember thinking that that's not what Eileen would do. It was very kind of... because she's always good and she's morally...
You can imagine her looking at the cheque and sort of going to do it and then shaking her head at herself and sighing at that she's almost annoyed at herself that she can't bring herself to do it.
Yeah.
But you can't actually see her doing it.
Yeah, so I was a bit disappointed
with her. It caused quite
there.
a lot of heartbreak for her, as I remember that.
Yeah. Well, after he found it out that she'd taken it in the end, and Eileen and Julie then blackmailed him into fixing her roof for free because they discovered that he'd been evading taxes for years. Owen later broke into number 11 and destroyed the evidence, and then he shot Eileen for stealing the cheque, who's let off with a caution after agreeing to give the money back. Eileen started dating Paul that year after he rescued her from having her head stuck through some factory railings. That was on her 50th birthday.
Yeah.
And then actually one of my favourite Eileen storylines started after that, because that was the whole Leslie storyline, because Marcus saw that Paul was around another woman, so
They assumed immediately it must be his mad wife.
no. Well, they went round to confront Leslie, and she opened the door, and she was a little bit confused, as Leslie was, and then we had everything with Paul and Leslie moving in. Did you enjoy that storyline last year?
I just laughed because I saw what you wrote about Leslie.
What did I say?
She cheese toasts herself to death.
She cheese on toasts herself to death. Yeah, that's what was on the coroner's report, I'm sure.
So that whole storyline was very trying for poor Eileen, because she was trying to live in the same house as her boyfriend and his wife.
A lot of people didn't like that storyline.
I found it uncomfortable.
I didn't.
Like,
fine.
yeah, every
Ooh,
man's
drama.
dream.
So she got so poor old Leslie bit the dust there. Eileen got her job back at Streetcars later that year, where she actually belonged, and everything's been okay since then, until now, when she's getting a little bit jealous of Paul.
To be honest, this jealousy is kind of coming out of nowhere for me.
No, it is.
She's kind of like, I've always been like this.
But she really hasn't, has she?
No.
Yeah. Anyway, I read something funny about Sue Cleaver and Simon Gregson when they're doing their streetcar scene. When they're supposed to be writing little notes into their books when they're on their phone, they're actually writing incredibly rude messages to each other.
I'm sure that we would not even be able to read them out if we even had them.
No.
Do you think it says some stuff like, you look like a poo,
Probably.
you smell?
And
That's what I
now,
write to you.
Eileen is... I think lots of people like Eileen. I think she's not anyone's favourite character,
No.
but everyone's got time for Eileen, and I think a lot of people would agree that she's fairly underused in the show.
Yes, and there are definitely characters, and we all know who they are. As soon as they appear in a scene, you're like, oh God, please spare me. Eileen's never been one of those characters.
No, she
She's
always brightens up a
yeah.
scene with a funny remark, or
And even someone like Norris, who is funny, and I do like when he's in it, but occasionally he's in a scene, you're like, oh God, not Norris again. I know exactly what he's going to say now.
yeah. But Eileen's great, and it's just she's almost just being used as the kind of, I'm going to poke my head into the scene, say a dry cutting remark, and then I'm out of it again.
Not quite as much the queen of cutting remarks as Blanche.
Well, no, not in the same way.
No, but it would be cool if somebody took that up, to be honest.
Well, that's what Sylvia's role is, isn't it, really, at the moment?
No!
Yeah, she's supposed to be...
Yeah, okay, well, she may be supposed to be, but...
Yeah, so it's... I don't know what Eileen can really do to integrate herself more, or to have to be in more storylines, because there's no real...
Just keep poking her head around the corner.
There's no real reason why she's not in it much.
Well, she's got enough people living in her house.
I guess she just needs to have a business on the street. Well, she works at Streetcars, so
She should just start actually properly taking rent off people. That could be a business.
Oh, yeah.
Like, well, no, but I mean, she's got like every single
she
male living in her house.
Yeah. So, I want to see more Eileen. Lots of people want to see more Eileen. I don't mind.
I think it's fine how much she's in it at the moment. Because let's face it, this storyline that she's in now with Paul looks like it's not going well because of her going mad and getting jealous. The storyline with her and Leslie, that was just tragic. Do you really want her to be in storylines that force her to be like tragic? Because I don't. I'd rather she was in it less and she was funny.
Yeah. Do you think that she's ever going to kind of find someone to settle down with, or is she?
No.
Do the writers want
Unless
her to be
she
the
leaves.
unlucky in love? Yeah, because I mean,
They're all like that though.
Well,
they all really are.
Curly was very much an unlucky in love character, wasn't he?
I always find it weird though
when he finds boring old Emma to marry, then they left.
Yeah, but whenever we have a character profile and we say, oh, this character is very unlucky in love, I always think, but they all are. What defines unlucky in love in a TV programme where half the stories revolve around affairs and
I'm going to picture Eileen. I just see her kind of sighing quite a lot. There goes another man.
Well, I guess I don't
If we'd just been through a list of about 7,
but we
8,
say
9
that for
guys that she's
everyone.
dated, I don't think we do as
Surely.
much as her.
Oh, I don't
In
know.
2007, she won an award for being a favourite TV soap star from TV Now. So it's not exactly the most prestigious award.
Poor TV Now.
Mm.
We'll never get a job working for them.
No. And of Eileen, Sue Cleaver says, I lurch between the light-hearted and serious. There's been lots of heavy drama stuff with Todd and Jason, so it's really nice to have the relief of the scenes in the taxi office, where it's more upbeat. I get to play the whole spectrum, which is fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nice to have a character that's not funny all the time and not miserable all the time.
Again, I would argue that most of them have a range. Even Norris had his little tragic storyline about his brother that got sent to Australia.
It is true. But anyway, I like Eileen. Eileen is great.
I do like her a lot, and I like.
She's one of my favourites because she's never really done anything that I've thought, oh, I don't like you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Apart from this check.
Apart from that check thing, that was a bit of a shame. But yeah, but
Yeah,
nothing
she's
against
never
her.
blotted her copybook in any major way.
No, I'd quite like Todd to come back if it meant that like maybe Eileen could be in it more.
No, Todd, no.
But okay, right, that is it.
I think Tommy is the new Todd.
Oh no. Let's anyway.
Oh no.
Oh no, I don't think so.
Hello everyone, welcome to our bonus podcast for this week. We're doing a character profile for you this week. It's been a while since we've done a character profile.
It's a
I think.
revisit.
This is a revisit one. It's been a very long while since we talked about this character in depth. This is Eileen, who left us earlier this year. She's been gone a couple of months now. Well, I think they even said on when George is now back in the dating game. There's like,
That's true, yeah.
Eileen's been gone too much. We've just been so busy with the podcast, we've not got round to doing a catch-up of her. We always like to say goodbye to the characters when they're gone, if it's been a while since we profiled them. And when we last did Eileen, it was in episode 32 of the podcast.
That's
back
so
in
funny.
March 2013,
A lot.
so over 12 years ago since we did this.
There's been a lot of water under the bridge.
There has been, yeah, and she probably pushed feeling into some of that as well, didn't she? Washed him away off to the sea. March 2013 we were talking about, so we're going to pick up from there. And if you're watching the YouTube version of this or listening to the YouTube version of this, if I've remembered, I've put the earlier one in beforehand as well. But if you haven't, I'm going to give a quick rundown of what we talked about in that. Because we can't do the whole of Eileen. She's been in it for flipping donkey's years. And I'm sure this is going to go on for just as long anyway. I had a listen to this the other day, Gemma, when you were in bed. And even then, I said, we're not going to do a full, thorough rundown of Eileen because we've only just done Jason and Julie in episodes 17 and 26. So it's not really the full story, but who cares? Who cares?
He's taking notes.
Exactly. When we profiled her last, she'd been in just under 1,350 episodes. 2,444 now.
So over
Nearly
1,000
Yeah.
more. And what's she done? Tell me.
Well, she's been a bit quiet recently. Oh, not so recently. She's not been in it at all recently. But I think we definitely... I don't know. Would you say that Eileen's best years on the street were her first half, or has she flourished?
I don't know. I
as
think
she
we need
comes
to
towards
talk
her
about
swan
it.
song?
So when was she first appeared?
2000, I think she was.
That's
in
what
it
I thought.
first.
So
yeah.
same as Jack P. Shepherd as David.
Yeah.
So she was in it for 25 years.
Yeah, she's still one of the most featured characters. She's 19th most featured Corrie character ever in terms of episode counts, which seems a bit crazy to me. I don't know, do you picture Eileen as being one of the
19th.
main characters on Coronation Street?
Don't. No, I don't. But I think that's one of the reasons I liked her actually, is that she wasn't a major character, and I think that she's one of these. I think I came up with terminology once, so I forgot what it was, like about the characters that add seasoning and the characters that are the meat and the vegetables. And I think she's more of a seasoning kind of a person.
Yeah, I mean, she's had her storylines for sure, hasn't
So
she?
like
But
the meat characters are the ones who really carry the backbone of the show, and they have a year-long story or whatever. And the vegetables are kind of maybe... it sounds really mean, but vegetables are just always there, but they don't add loads. You just have them around because you need them.
She's a
and then the
facilitator
spicy
of
ones,
stories, isn't
well,
she?
you know, I mean, vegetable characters. I'm trying to think, like Kirk. You know, like
Which
he adds
vegetable
bulk.
is Kirk?
He adds bulk. Maybe a carrot. you add bulk, but you don't add. Nobody's like buying it because they want to eat a courgette on the side, are they?
With Eileen, I mean, she came in as a bit of a side character, didn't she? Like when she was working in Streetcars, her first episode was, I think she got a job in Streetcars within the first episode or two. And then it was not long after that the family moved into the street, and I remember being so excited when her character got moved into the street properly, because she made a really good impression in her first appearances, just as this very dry, sarcastic, she was a comedic character, but not one of these stupid ones. She was kind of she made Steve look stupid, I suppose, isn't she? Not that he needs help these days, but
no, I know what you mean.
She was the sort of person that would really never work on the switch at a cab office, because she would just say what she felt and was very incredibly rude to the customers on the other side. But for viewers, it was Corrie Gold, and we've seen a lot less of that over the year. We've seen not much Streetcars in general, let alone Eileen in
Since
Streetcars.
we've started this podcast, I think maybe in the past, like maybe 7 years or so, maybe, I don't know, but the Streetcars set has not been as used. I think that Eileen's heyday was any time she was in that Streetcar set on the switch with Steve and
Lloyd
friend.
and or Tim.
Yeah. I prefer Steve and Lloyd, and I think that trio works very well. I think that Corrie kind of transitioned her into being a landlady of her house and kind of like hosting all these weird and wacky waifs and strays. And that kind of like worked as sort of a substitute, but it was never as good.
She is a looker after a type character.
But she's not though.
Well,
she's not maternal, is she? She's more like I guess this has been thrust upon me to.
Yeah, and I think that's what we saw partly in Streetcars as well.
Yeah.
Because Steve and Lloyd were just mucking around half the time or playing silly games, and it's the same with Tim. And she's the one that's kind of got to wrangle them together.
There is many a woman who has been forced
being
into being some kind of like anchor figure for a group of guys who just buggering around the whole time. And Eileen definitely felt like she had maternity thrust upon her by her sex and society, but she was never a kind of a mum's mum, was she? But I also really liked that kind of style of mummage where she's like, I don't care what you eat, have cereal or toast. You know, that's kind of her attitude to life. Like, I'll look after you, but you're also responsible for yourself. I'm not going to set myself on fire.
It's true, but also, to be fair, what we're seeing in ITV3 at the moment is her having had this baby thrust upon her. Jason's, Holly, back in, where are we, in 2007 now, I think. It turns out that it's actually Charlie's baby, of course. But when she
Charlie?
Yeah, it's just Charlie Stubbs' baby. It wasn't Jason's.
I don't know.
Well, I'm telling you. Gemma's not really watching.
No,
actually,
I'm
not been revealed.
Not really
yet.
watching it. I'm just not watching it.
Yeah, so this baby got delivered onto the doorstep, and Jason didn't want anything to do with her, or found her very difficult and not at all interesting to look after. And Eileen was incredibly maternal towards her, but it's kind of that she felt she had to be. I think it was a bit of, of course I am. She's family, but it wasn't exactly the
I just think
curveball that she was craving in life.
Not only do I have sympathy for, but I enjoy watching a prickly mum. I think Evelyn is a really good example. Blanche is a good example of this kind of woman who's like, yeah, I have got these dependents, but I'm also not that bothered about. Yeah. And this is how she ended up with Jason and Todd, who are both interesting in their own ways, aren't they?
She's definitely the sort of mum that would be quick to tell their kids they were being idiots if they were. And one of my favourite things with Eileen and Jason is when she clouts him around the back of the head, which we got a little sneak of when he came back recently. I know she would do that with Stephen Lloyd as well. Do you remember that great advert they did for Coronation Street? I don't remember when it was, 7 or 8 years ago now, where they refilmed some classic scenes, but kind of blurry. Do you remember that? And one of them was Eileen bashing Stephen Lloyd's heads together, which wasn't even a classic scene, but that's the kind of thing that I think of when I picture her. Just kind
violence.
Of get on, just kind of friendly violence.
Domestic
just kind of
violence.
get on with it.
But it's okay when a woman does it.
Exactly.
We all just laugh.
Sure, she's a classic Corrie strong woman, but in a different kind of way than the likes of, well, I suppose Elsie before
Do you know
her.
what I'm
number
just
11.
about to say? I really do think she is a mum in the mould of Elsie Tanner, where Elsie obviously had the sex appeal that you couldn't give to Eileen because of misogyny and fat phobia and all the rest of it, because she wasn't super attractive like Pat Phoenix. But like,
I thought you were going to say like Pat Phelan has.
Pat Phelan has just had ooze sex appeal. But you know what I mean? Like but if you look at the relationship that Elsie Tanner had with her kids and contrasted that with Eileen and her grown children, she definitely had this kind of like contempt almost. She wasn't going to indulge them in their fantasies and like lazing around. I think she had.
She's not like Gail, who kind of was a doormat for her children
exactly.
most of her life.
She wasn't going to indulge them in thinking that life was going to lay down at their feet. And I think that Elsie was the same way, very practical, understood what life was about and knew that her kids had to kind of have tough love.
Yeah, and I guess
there are loads of tough love mums on Coronation Street. I think Eileen is a very good modern example.
Well, both of them were single mothers as well, weren't they? And I guess they had to fight and struggle to raise their kids, and sometimes it was just a case of you just have to deal with this.
Yeah, deal with this. This is life. I think it's funny that I don't think anyone's ever compared Eileen to Elsie Tanner, but I do think there are similarities.
Yeah.
It's a hard life, and I think also I like and appreciate Eileen Grimshaw for being a proper working class character in a show where everybody's got £20,000 in their bank account and owns their own business and has literally no worries about rent and things.
I like how she
owned her own home, which is not super typical of working class people, but. And now she's gone to Thailand, she's renting it out to fund her life. I'm not sure how working class that really is, but yeah, a lot of her struggles have come from and having to rent out her house to all these strangers and things. She kind of has had to
she's
work
had to struggle for every
everything.
single thing in her life, it looks like. And I'm glad that she's got a happy ending.
She deserves it,
I guess. But you were right to point out the lack of glamour when it comes to
oh, bless her.
To Eileen, and I think that's what a lot of people appreciate about her as well, is that there's nothing kind of fake feeling about her, is there? She feels like a proper could live down your street kind of woman.
She does, yeah.
Which you wouldn't necessarily say about all the ladies on Coronation Street.
I mean, I don't want to stray into talking about critiquing people's appearances and things, but because even though I brought it up, but I was just kind of saying that probably people would be surprised if I compared her to Elsie, because Elsie was a glamour purse, and I think that Eileen didn't have time for that kind of thing.
No.
And I think we've seen her on the show, and obviously it mirrors the real life, Sue Cleaver's real life kind of makeover that she's had recently, where maybe you could say that Eileen, once she's got rid of all of her kids, finally has time to look after herself and sort of turn into a beautiful butterfly that she's always been.
Well, yeah, Sue Cleaver's renaissance in the past few years has all been about looking after yourself. And what was I can't remember what her book was called. Work in Progress, was it? I'm not done yet, and I think that's what we're seeing with Eileen now.
I appreciate that. There's a lot more to say about it, which I'm not going to get into because we're just talking about Eileen Grimshaw here. But yeah, I think I could talk for hours about that specific topic, but let's talk about.
I read. Just going back to that briefly. I read when we knew that she was leaving, Sue Cleaver did interviews, and one of the things she said was she went up to the boss's office, and they were like, "How do you want to leave? Then do you want to be killed off? Do you want what?" And she picked to have Eileen's exit mirror her recent changes in life and an attitude and
that's
priorities. So I think that's one of the reasons why she's gone off to be a hippie somewhere.
No, I love that for her. I think it's great that she's. Sometimes it feels like, and I'm divorced from this because I don't have kids, but being a woman's like being in the army, and you have to put your service in, and then if you do like good 25 solid years of hard labour, then you get a good pension and you can go and do what you actually wanted to do, which is obviously not right, but I love the idea that Eileen's getting the relaxation that she deserved after looking after, obviously not just her sons, but all the other people that she's had come through her life, and like it clearly doesn't come naturally to her, but she does it anyway. And I think that a lot of women can relate to that kind of feeling.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why a lot of women and men relate to her and understand her.
Oh
and
yeah,
like
I think she's a really universal character, and I'm gonna say too, like she's not. I don't think she's everyone's favourite character, but I think a lot of people would put her like, yeah, I like Eileen.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's many people that would say, oh, I can't get on with Eileen, can't stand her.
Well, some people did when she left. I know some people did, but
you can say that
on
about
the whole,
anybody. And I think some of that maybe recent distaste for Eileen may come from the fact that she's been underused in the last couple of years, and some of the reasons is because Sue Cleaver's had issues outside of work where she's literally not been able to appear on screen, but she's had I think that when she was at the top of her A game, and she's had various periods throughout her time on the street where that's been the case, because even up until I don't know 6-7 years ago, she was still a big character.
Well, she's the 19th most featured of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet you lots of people would not. I wouldn't have pegged that. I would have said maybe top 100.
I wonder how many of those appearances are she's there in. I suppose she's there in the cab office, but that's not necessarily a oft frequented place like the Rovers. You can't say, well, yeah, if you're in the cafe or if you're in the corner shop or if you're in the Rovers, obviously you're going to get all these appearances. Maybe that's not the case in Streetcars. I think she's just been a reliable presence, hardy, enjoyable presence on the street for 25 years. I'm sad that she's
dependable Eileen.
Yeah, exactly. As I was saying, I was listening to the.
Can I just be a bit mean here and say that if I'm going to liken her to an animal, she's a donkey. Right, because she's reliable. People don't appreciate her. They burden her with all of their their needs. But she's maybe not as beautiful as a horse, but she is cute, and everybody loves a donkey. Like, people love donkeys more than horses, because there's something so irresistible about a cheeky little donkey who is working its arse off, pardon the pun, and then you will just give them a scritch on their head for just being this dependable beast of burden.
And sometimes she can be Eeyore-ish, can't she?
Yeah, she massively is.
I can picture her there on the switch, headphones over her head, and just her head in her hand, thinking, sort of counting down the minutes until the end of the day.
Aren't donkeys more relatable?
But equally, I can't see Eeyore making the funny jokes or the quips that Eileen's
Well, what
done,
about Donkey from Shrek?
She's a mixture. Yeah, sometimes she is Donkey from Shrek, and sometimes she's Eeyore, isn't she?
We love donkeys. Donkeys, I don't know if this is true. What?
It's like you're trying to defend yourself for
I feel
comparing
like
her
people
to
are
a
going to
donkey
get mad
here.
about me saying that she's like a donkey, but I do think that she is.
She's borne the weight of many a character on the street.
She's a bit. Donkey charities get more money than almost any other charity to the extent that they have to go and rescue donkeys in other countries.
There's 2 Weatherfield donkey sanctuaries,
I know.
as we know.
Well, don't bring that up because they might start fighting again.
As I was saying, I was listening to the past character profile just a couple of days ago, and I think a lot of what we're saying now mirrors what we were talking about there. We called her a one-liner character, which she definitely sometimes is. I think she can be relied on to drop a witty remark or insult.
This is why I got criticised for saying this about Blanche.
Yeah, but she's that, but a whole lot more, and I think
so is
Blanche is as well. Yeah, for sure. We said we didn't really like Todd. We were talking about then, and we said that he was a bit boring and wet.
When was this?
2013,
which was when
this was before he wasn't on the show at this point, so he'd come in as in the early 2000s with Eileen, done all that dalliancing with Sarah, disappeared off, and then he was off the show for a while, and we were saying, not really fussed about Todd coming back.
I really didn't realise that we had.
Yeah, but it was not long after we'd recorded this. It was later that year that Bruno Langley returned to the street.
Wow.
And he became a bit kind of more of a darker side that we saw to him from that time.
Talking about donkeys, he's a dark horse.
Yeah, yes, he is. We said I was talking about Jesse. He went out with Eileen obviously for a bit, and I said he was incredibly dull, but you quite liked him. I don't think either of us expected to see him again.
Not for her return, for sure.
You said that you didn't really mind that she wasn't used enough. I was kind of lamenting the fact that we didn't see her too much. So I guess that was true all through her run, that she was just kind of there a little bit in the background. But you said that you didn't want her to become like a tragic character.
I mean, look at Debbie.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So everybody who wanted more Debbie, now we've got it. And what do you think of it?
Yeah. Lots of people say, or who else could we have given that? Well, who else could Coronation Street have given the dementia storyline to? And there's been so many characters that have left this year. Eileen could have had it. Yasmin could have had it.
I think it would have worked well for Eileen, actually.
Yeah, but then equally, I've seen some people saying, I've thought, it wouldn't have been interesting if she'd have gone out with Gail somehow.
Not dated.
No, as in gone out of the show with Gail and kind of put their differences aside.
I think I agree. I think I said that at the time. It would have been fun to have seen like frenemies.
Do you think that Eileen is kind of overshadowed by the fight with Gail? And when you think of classic Eileen moments, you kind of can't think of anything else but that classic fight with Gail.
She's so much more than a feud with one woman.
She is, but that's what everyone always comes up with, aren't they? And I don't know whether that's burdensome or not as an actor to play a character. If Eileen was on the show for 25 years, so is Sue Cleaver saying, I've done a whole lot more than scrapping with Gail on the street? Or would it still be a privilege to be a part of a scene in Coronation Street that is so fondly remembered and so often brought up and so used in clip shows? What would you prefer?
I know what you mean. I'm also going to say that I think Gail suffers from a similar thing, but it's with her relationship with David. And I think that these two characters are defined by their relationships with other people. I wouldn't say that Eileen's was quite as bad as Gail's like link with David, as if you're going to talk about being reduced by an association with somebody else. I don't know that I think of Eileen and then link her to Gail's feud.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I just think of her more of as sort of a lone wolf.
The feud was a funny thing because the feud with Gail was something that would go dormant for years, wouldn't it? And then every now and then they'd remember, or the characters would collide and they'd have a scrap about one thing or another, a verbal or physical sometimes.
Yeah.
And some people are like, oh, can't they just give it a break? Others no, let's embrace it. I did enjoy them sparring, and even we got to see a bit of that last Christmas when it was Gail's hen do. Do you remember? And Eileen was there standing at the bar making fun of all the questions about Gail in the quiz, like when Sarah said name Gail's husbands in order of height, and Eileen said, well, it's got to be Martin's the tallest because he's the only one that's not 6 feet under.
Yeah, I like it. I don't think it defines Eileen's. Oh, okay. I mean, if you think of Eileen, if I say Eileen, what immediately comes into your head? Because I picture her sitting at a desk at Streetcars with a headset on her head, scowling at some idiot who...
That's really funny because it was so long ago, but then ago so was the fight as well, so long ago.
What do you think defines her?
I think if you were to say Eileen to me, the first thing I would think of would be the fight. But then I do also think of her relationship with her family as well. And just the bond that she has with Todd and Jason.
So you say in Classic you're on 2007?
Yeah. Okay,
so she's been in it for 7 years, and now she's having this storyline with the baby. Mm-hmm. I just wonder whether your perception of Eileen is different from mine, because you've seen her in two parallel time zones.
Recently. I mean, you've seen it then as well.
I saw it back at the time, but I don't watch Classic with you, so I think it's interesting, and I think a lot of people listening to this also love Classic, and they watch Classic, and I think they might too have a different perception of Eileen based on her, because she really was just a headset queen.
Yeah, but she had her moments. I would say one of the best Eileen episodes or scenes, I suppose it was a series of scenes over the episode, was when Todd came out to her and he was like worried about what she was going to say, and she was
not
so
entirely happy.
No, I think she was.
Okay,
I think she
don't
was very,
remember.
very supportive then. I think
That's
that was
good.
one of Sue Cleaver's best dramatic performances.
And when was that? 2006?
No, 2, 3 or something like that.
Okay, so it was quite early on in her tenure as
Yeah.
Eileen.
Yeah, and I think that
That's
was
nice.
that was good to show that
I just
there was a bit
remember-
more range to the character.
I remember how horrible everybody was to Todd on the show.
Yeah. No, she stood her ground, and that's one of the reasons why that fight with Gail.
Well, yeah,
took
because
place.
Gail was a bit homophobic.
Well, yeah. Although I mean,
Well,
it
was
you
about
can
her
understand-
relationship with Sarah,
Yes.
and the fact that Todd was maybe being a bit of a Theo about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked
I
about.
think you would understand, but no.
We talked about Eileen's string of men that she's been through, and I think that's partly defined her character as well, because she's always been unlucky in love. And we said on the past
like
character
Elsie
profile,
Tanner.
the last one, we don't expect to see her settle down with
Isn't
anybody for a long time, and we didn't. I don't know how long the longest relationship she has had was, but it probably was Pat Phelan, and even that was only a year or two they were together. At least he got a ring on her finger.
But who Elsie ended up with? What's his face? Howard, something Howard. I've forgotten his name.
Yes, Alan Howard.
No, she went off to somewhere. Maybe it wasn't Howard then.
Maybe it was Bill Gregory is who
Bill
she
Gregory,
ended up with in the end.
and he wasn't a big part of her life at all. Well, she dated him, but you wouldn't have said, if you'd been writing the story of Elsie Tanner, you wouldn't have said Bill Gregory, that's her true love, would you?
No.
I don't think so.
I suppose the Eileen equivalent of this would have been Dennis Stringer coming back from the dead and driving her off into the sunset on his
would
motorbike.
have been
Because
weird.
I think out of all of the blokes that Eileen went out with, Dennis Stringer was probably the best for her. Even though he kind of had the... He was
Don't
going
ask
out,
me.
He was going out with Eileen, and then he had an affair with Janice. But I still think that Dennis and Eileen were top quality soap couple.
So you
and
want
they
to
just
talk
didn't
about
last for
her
too long.
dating?
Well, we can do. I mean, as I say, she even in the first 13 years of her character that we talked about last time, there was Dennis, there was Ed Jackson, who obviously was the one who shot Ernest Bishop in that whole story when he ended up coming along, and he was a really decent chap. He was a lovely guy, and then he revealed that he was the one that had murdered Ernest, and that was never going to work well after that, living in the same street as Emily Bishop. We talked about there was another Pat back in the day. I think he was a cabbie or something. I can't even remember him. Jesse, Owen. Did she go out with Owen, or was she just? No, I think there was maybe just clashing heads with him.
Wasn't he a boss?
Yeah, maybe he was. And then as we were recording last, she was going out with Paul, play the white man Kershaw. Although that hadn't happened yet.
Stop bringing that up.
That
That's
was
one
kind of
thing.
six months away from happening when we recorded
One
this.
time you say something racist, and then for the rest of your life, you're the racist fireman.
It was interesting what you were saying earlier about the fact that Eileen's had all these people kind of put upon her, and she's just kind of had to look after them. But that's what we saw in the Paul story with his wife Leslie, wasn't it? Do you remember? Because she had
Who could forget?
early onset Alzheimer's.
I think she did, yeah.
And Paul had to go off and do his firemanning work, and so often Eileen was left looking after his wife, who didn't know what on earth was going on half the time, and she ended up getting into a fight with her. This is Eileen, or Sue Cleaver, ended up having a bit of an accident on set once when she was having a fight with I can't remember what the name of the actress is who plays Leslie Kershaw. She's quite famous. But yeah, she hit Eileen and they had a bit of a tumble, and Eileen had to go to hospital. I really enjoyed that story, and that was...
Eileen had to go to hospital?
No, Sue Cleaver did with the accident that she had. But that was a great story because that did show a caring side to Eileen, but you could also see her frustration through it. And I think that's something I really liked about her, that she would, look after people or things through gritted teeth. And I think a lot of people can identify with that. Judy Holtz, Gemma's just found out for me, is the name of that very famous actress.
Yeah.
Anyway, If we'll kind of leave the reminiscing there and then just pick up on the synopsis of what she's been up to in the past 12 years. And 2013, where we left off, was just before quite a momentous occasion in, well, if maybe Eileen's, but mostly Paul's story, which was the Rovers fire. Can't believe it was 12 years ago that the Rovers were set on fire.
It feels like longer.
Do you think
But it also
so?
feels like not as long.
It's funny, like there are a few things that when I was writing the notes together for this, some of it I'm thinking I barely remember that at all and I can't really speak too much about those storylines. But then other things that happened around about the same time, I was like, oh, that feels like yesterday. So Eileen at the time, when we last spoke about her, she was just about getting engaged to Paul, but then not long after that you got the Rovers fire, and this is because he was a fireman and he was involved in rescuing people there. Do you remember his colleague Tony, who was the one
Tony the girl?
Yeah, Tony with an I, the one victim of the Rovers fire that died in situ at least. Alas, poor Sunita. She also well, she was more murdered afterwards, wasn't she?
She got burned to a crisp.
She didn't get burned to a crisp. She was just still slightly singed when, what was his face? Carl pulled out a breathing tube. But anyway, Paul ends up getting massive survivor's guilt after this, and he wants to get a transfer to North Yorkshire. I don't remember this at all. I think like in Paul's, how long was he in the show? 2 years? 3 maybe at most? It's talking about, all you can think about when you talk about a character as one story. And I know it's different with someone like Eileen who was in the show for 25 years, but everything is just overshadowed by this racism storyline, isn't it, for him? But before,
I don't know, I think he burned quite brightly for a fireman. But he packed quite a lot into a couple of years, because he had this, he had the fire story, and he had his wife.
I suppose the cheese on toast story was somewhat memorable, wasn't it? The dirty,
what do you mean
cheese
somewhat?
On toast. It's become iconic.
I think it's seminal.
For us. He decides that he's going to move up to North Yorkshire, and Eileen has to do a mad dash to Victoria Station to stop him. And at the time, Sue Cleaver said, "Oh, it's a bit like Brief Encounter because Paul's on a train and Eileen's chasing him up the platform." Unfortunately, I got a bit enthusiastic during filming, tore my Achilles tendon, and have been in plaster for a few weeks. So this is two things in the Paul storyline where Sue Cleaver ended up in hospital.
Do you think they just had to get rid of the character because she kept hurting herself?
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Man, I wonder how many other actors on Coronation Street have had injuries, sustained injuries, like on set.
Should we do for Patreon top 5 injuries we think was worth it?
I can't think. Obviously, Kevin falling over that one
That's
time
literally the only
is
thing
the
I
other
can
classic.
think of.
There must have been other ones.
There's loads of other ones.
Oh, well, what about Pat Phoenix being bumped into by the cameraman?
Yeah. What about what's Bette Lynch throwing up in the fire?
Oh, that's just method acting. That was.
Well, where's the line?
Anyway, Eileen starts to find it really, really difficult dating this fireman, especially after Tony died, because she's worried that next job Paul's called out to, he's going to snuff it as well.
Stop watching London's Burning.
So she ends up having to take sleeping pills. She doesn't have a luck with men who do. Because she struggled to sleep with George, didn't she? That was just the snoring that was keeping her up at that point.
I hope she's all right where she is now.
Anyway, she's extra rude to streetcars customers because she's getting terrible night's sleep, and then Paul ends up lying about his work to try and cover up the fact that he's attending all these big fires. Eileen eventually comes round to the idea though, but that all falls by the wayside when the Play the White Man story comes along. And but to cut a long story short, and I don't think my opinions on this have particularly changed in the years that have gone since. He's playing darts with Lloyd, isn't he, in the pub?
He is.
And or Lloyd's there at least, and then he utters the phrase "play the white man" when somebody beats him at a game of darts or something along those lines.
I never heard this phrase before Coronation Street. I didn't know the meaning of it. I can't remember exactly what it means.
It just means
It's
play
like,
fair.
Yeah, okay.
And I think
It didn't
some
work
people
very
would
well on
say,
me because
"Oh, that's a really common phrase," but I don't know. Maybe it is for people in Paul's age bracket because we've seen in an older episode of Coronation Street from the early '60s a character, was it Len Fairclough maybe, actually used that phrase in everyday parlance, and obviously back then nobody would have batted an eyelid.
Well, you're a Midlander. I'm a Southerner.
Yeah.
Maybe it was regional.
I don't know whether it was.
And
I
I'm not
think it's
saying
more...
racism is a regional thing in this country because that's nonsense. But this was a very interesting. It felt like they were trying to use a phrase that was not going to upset people because they didn't want to. They wanted to do a racism storyline without offending anybody.
It had to be something
really
that could get through before the watershed, I suppose. And it didn't really work for me. But and Eileen had
I think it was more... look, I haven't watched it since, but I think it was more to do with the fact that he wouldn't accept that it was racist and that Lloyd didn't like it. Because it's all very well,
you're right.
unknowingly using things that you don't understand it's going to... will offend somebody. But in general, if somebody says, hey, that's offensive, can you not do it because it upsets me? And you say, well, I don't care. That's the problem. I don't think I really took that in at the time, to be honest with you.
I think Eileen took his side, but she had to weather quite a few insults being hurled their way when they were out together.
Well, it's
because
awkward.
He came a bit of a...
Yeah, a lightning rod for abuse. But, you know, she was torn between Paul and Lloyd. And Lloyd was obviously very dear to her as well.
Yeah, someone who she'd worked with for a long time.
I kind of wish I could watch that storyline again to see if I feel any differently about it.
I think...
At the time, I was just criticising it because I thought as though they were trying to do a story without really wanting to absorb any of the negativity that could come from.
It didn't quite work, I felt.
It didn't work on us.
There was a story, there was a bit later on in the story, I can't remember all the details, there was a fight that broke out, and I can't remember whether somebody attacked Paul or somebody attacked Lloyd or something like that, and one came to the other's rescue. And Eileen ended up being more concerned for Lloyd's welfare than Paul's, which kind of knocked him off a little bit, and that was kind of the last straw for the relationship. And she just says, look, this isn't working. You're always putting yourself first here. You're always being really defensive. I can't be doing with this. And then that's how they split up. And if you'd have asked me before I put my notes together today, like what happened with Paul and Eileen in the end, I probably couldn't have told you because my mind is just so clouded with thoughts about the story, the casual racism story not really working. But Paul was by no means a classic Corrie character, was he? He did his bit for a few years and then he swanned off, soon to be replaced at the end of the year, as I said earlier, by Todd, who was back on the street in November.
He'd been in every sense, because that would be weird.
What did I say?
Replaced.
Oh yeah, no.
In what manner?
Just as somebody else to share the
scenes.
Yeah, share the food with. He's back from London. He's been sacked from his job there. This is when he'd become a bit of a bad boy.
He came back with a scar, right?
No. The scar came out much later.
I don't know.
It's fine. We were all learning together here. It's probably lots of our listeners.
He gets the scar at the end of the next year, doesn't he?
Possibly.
Yes, he does.
Possibly.
So,
he does, doesn't he? She just had a sneaky look ahead at my notes.
Are you telling everybody secrets about what I'm doing? So Tony Stewart, who is Jason's dad, comes back. Is it Jason's dad? Yeah. We don't know who Todd's dad is.
No, that's still a mystery.
I find it very weird that never came up in her exit story.
I suppose it...
Do you not think that it would be a super big... just to extrapolate further beyond Eileen's character, but Todd, right, as a gay man who was closeted in his youth, who went through a traumatic experience with his girlfriend, who then he came out and it was all terrible and people were rude to him, so he understands to a certain extent what Theo's going through, but he never really went through that as a dad, right? Do you not think that he might wonder about his own father and think, was my dad gay? My dad, what was the relationship my dad had with my mum? Why doesn't she talk about him ever? Why don't I even know what his name is?
I imagine it's something that he has considered at one point, but I don't know how...
But he's such a thoughtful character. He's really introspective. His life is dominated by relationships with other men because he's gay. And I think that when you're focusing on that kind of thing, inevitably, if you're introspective, you'll think, have I got daddy issues? Is there something going on with my relationship with my dad, like him being an absent father? Was he there when they were kids?
No, I don't think so. I can't
really
remember
interesting.
whether Todd's dad, even Eileen's supposed to know who it was, or whether it was just some rando.
But wouldn't it really fascinate you, and especially Todd's character, to know who's my dad?
Well, he's going through a bit of drama at the moment, isn't he? So maybe this could...
But you see what I mean about
I do.
father figures in his life and wondering. And Jason had the stability of, like, at least knowing who his dad was.
Yeah, even though they didn't get on for a lot of the time.
No.
I almost think it's a bit too late to bring in Todd's dad now, because although it seems like the story might write itself somewhat,
it does feel like it
wouldn't feel like it would be completely giving me everything that I would want out of it with Eileen not on the show.
Yeah, you're right.
And already, you know, with Todd, we're having to, and I think most people have now, sort of said, this isn't the same Todd as it was back at the beginning.
I guess so.
To have somebody else saying, hey, I'm part of this family as well now. I mean, Corrie's not shy about bringing in long-lost character family members, but yeah, I don't know whether the time has maybe passed now.
I remember we do a Patreon about characters that haven't been cast that we like, and we mentioned Kevin's brother Carl because he wasn't in it. Maybe that was why we did it. I can't remember.
Possibly.
We definitely talked about it. If we didn't
talked
do
about
it,
many, I think.
we have off the show. But I think Todd's dad is like one of the, apart from Becky Swain, obviously, one of the biggest characters I want to see. What's your deal?
I want to see him, but only if Sue Cleaver comes back to.
I don't know if it
fill
matters
the
to
story.
me.
I would say it.
I think it's because I think it's because I know that she wouldn't come back for it, and I kind of really want it selfishly, so I don't care whether she's involved.
Okay.
Maybe that's mean of me, but yeah. So Jason's dad is Tony Stewart, and he comes back to the street in January of 2024. He's been recast. 2014. Thank you, Michael. And he rebuilds bridges with Jason. He's a builder, isn't he? He's flirting with
he's
Liz.
an electrician.
Okay. And Eileen's not very happy about this, and they
People
fall up
related to Eileen or linked to Eileen are always coming back with a new head, aren't they? Have you noticed that?
Maybe she'll come back with a new head.
Is there something about her? I don't know. I don't think that they could get away with recasting Eileen now. I think after
I genuinely, since they recast Todd, I think there's no limit.
No way.
No
Not
limit.
a chance.
So
I did say that about Todd.
They fall out over this. Todd is busy seducing Marcus away from Maria.
Oh yeah.
And Eileen refuses to let Marcus move into number 11 when Maria eventually dumps him. Then Eileen sees that Michael and Gail are getting closer.
This is one of those things that made me think, you know, all of this stuff with Tony Stewart coming back into it and the Marcus storyline, to me that feels a bit ancient history-ish, and it's like, I don't really remember much about that. But Michael, I'm always surprised how early he came into
me
it.
too.
Michael Rodwell,
I'm like,
2014. And that was, because I remember us getting quite irate on the podcast.
You were super involved in this.
Yeah, because both of us very much shipped Michael and Gail together, didn't we? And when they had him leaving Gail for Eileen, I just could not get on with this.
Eileen's lowest point. For me, her getting involved with Michael and Gail and like poaching Michael from Gail and stuff, I didn't like it. I thought it was a bit mucky. I thought their relationship didn't work. She was very overbearing. I think Michael was too sensitive a soul to bear.
Yeah, she would eat him alive.
I mean, a lot of people say that about me and you. Do you think you're more of a Gail or an Eileen?
Definitely more of a Gail.
So you think I'm too? You can't cope with me?
Oh, if you'd have eaten me alive, you would have done it by now. You're not a fussy eater like me.
No, I'm also quite hungry quite often. So yeah, Eileen sees Michael and Gail getting closer, and they remain friends. And he goes to a hospital appointment with him when it turns out he's got this heart defect.
Yeah, and this is when I was going, no,
him.
don't go off with Eileen. Just stay friends with her. Don't. But I mean, I suppose it fits in a way like these two enemies, if you like, with Gail and Eileen are fighting over a man. Yeah. It kind of makes sense. But
I just don't think that Eileen would ever care. Like, it feels like she'd be above it.
I was just so ready by that point for Gail to settle down and have a happily ever after with a decent man, that anybody coming in between them to split them up, I just wasn't having any of it.
No.
And I think, are you glad that Eileen still never ended up properly getting a proper love of her life? Or would you have liked to have seen her, settle down? Because even Gail did in the end, we suppose, with Jessie. She's a character that's defined by her singletonness, isn't she? It's a bit of a...
I'm not going to say anything.
Why not? You're not scared of offending someone, or you just got no opinion?
No,
on that?
all right. I will say then. I love how empowering it is for a woman to reject having a romantic relationship with men. I just think I find it super empowering, and it's not because I don't love you
Thanks
or
for
being
that.
married to you, but it's because I think as a child, every story I heard about a woman being powerful was when she married a powerful man. Or every story where a woman got what she wanted, it was because she married somebody, or she had a guy notice she was beautiful or something. And so having that well poisoned somewhat by, 90s, 80s, 70s romantic stories, I find it refreshing and beautiful when a woman's like, I don't need this, I'm off, I'll see you later, baby.
I don't know whether Eileen's lack of a life partner was due to her rejecting it.
No, I don't think...
Or more just an
It's not
unlucky
about
in
that
love
either.
kind of
It's
thing.
not about rejecting men. It's about rejecting the idea that women are only fulfilled through a romantic relationship with a man.
I think
Men don't have that.
I don't think that Eileen was super confident in herself anyway, and I think she would
No.
often put on a front, and she might appear that she comes across bolshy, but I think she definitely felt bad about herself and looked down on herself, and probably would compare herself to her friends who had settled down normal, in inverted commas,
I love that. I love the idea of like marrying and having a house and a family and a dog and a picket fence and everything. But there's so many other stories that women can be empowered by that we never got to tell each other. And so knowing that Eileen's just gone to Thailand and gone, I don't need anybody.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it for her. I do also see the sadness in not having found a life partner.
Maybe she's found someone in Thailand.
Maybe she's got a lovely guy, woman, tortoise. I don't know what she's into these days, but I hope that she's enjoying herself. Maybe it's just a really good cocktail, because who wouldn't want that?
You said earlier that the end of the year was when Todd got his facial scar, wasn't it?
Yeah, Todd gets involved in this
Permanent.
cheap building materials scam with Tony. This is why Tyrone falls through the attic floor, and then he gets chucked out of the house because Eileen's just falls out with him over all of this shenanigans.
So Tony and Todd had done some work up in number 9's roof, hadn't they, and replaced the floorboards up there with some cheap MDF or something. And
yeah,
Tyrone has an accident.
Yeah, it falls through the floor, like I said. And so she kicks him out, but then he ends up getting mugged, and he gets a possibly permanent facial scar that doesn't follow him through his recasting.
No, they did keep it while Bruno was in the show, though, at least, didn't they? So it was semi-permanent.
Watch out, Ryan.
2015 came along, and this was the only time in the past 13 years that we've done, that we're covering today, 12 years maybe, that Eileen was one of the top 10 characters in terms of appearances. She was always kind of bubbling around in the teens or kind of way down the list, but here she was number 10 featured character in 2015, and it was basically a lot more about Eileen's tumultuous love life, starting off with a really weird story, which was her meeting Todd on a dating site. Do you remember this one?
Absolutely not.
This is a way to show that Todd was a bit of a devious kind of character at this point.
Yeah, maybe I do. He wasn't trying to date women. He was trying to annoy Eileen.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember now.
Just before this, there was also a little spell when she was a barmaid in the Rovers, and that lasted all of about 2 episodes or so. Because she's
maybe we should do a top 5 Patreon of mermaids. Barmaids that never were.
Yeah.
Like people that were only in it for like a few episodes, because we've had quite a few actually. Women who've just bobbed behind the bar for an episode or two.
Edna Miller, classic.
Didn't Sarah do it very briefly?
No, I think she was there for a while. They just didn't show her
God.
very much. Or she was just too short to be able to see her over the bar. I don't know, one of the
Why
other.
is this pint of Newton and Ridley's levitating?
So
thanks, Sarah.
Eileen gets set up on a dating site and she's matched up with this guy called Adrian Mortimer.
Solid name.
And it starts off that she's very nervous. Again, she's not completely confident in herself and she wants to just get to know this guy by email first. After a month goes...
Email?
Yeah, I know, it's cute, isn't it? After
So
a month
quaint.
or so, they go on a date, which goes well. But meanwhile, Todd's got himself set up on this dating site as well. Todd and dating sites, it's all coming back
Early
round
adopter.
again. Yeah, he's set himself on this website with a fake alias called Jeff. And
Jeff is the
not
evil.
Jeff as in Jiggle It Jeff, but this was a Jeff Jeff.
Not Jeff as in
And
GEF, the talking mongoose.
Not
either.
that either.
That's one of my favourite Jeffs.
Jeff was his alias was this man who's supposedly living on a flat in Dubai, and then
surely
he starts
Dubai
pursuing his mum.
Only has apartments.
What?
Surely you don't live in a flat in Dubai. You live in an
Same
apartment.
thing. Yeah, he starts pursuing his mum just to be
An arse.
cruel, just to have. And I remember at the time thinking, "Oh, this is weird. I'm not enjoying this." And Eileen is quite flattered by this attention that she's getting online and carries on corresponding with Jeff while still dating poor Adrian. So Todd tells Eileen that he, as Jeff, is going to be flying into Manchester soon, is going to meet her up at the bistro. But when she goes to see him, she's shocked to find that Todd and Adrian are there having a drink together. So Todd reveals to Eileen that he is Jeff, and Adrian leaves, Adrian leaves Eileen saying, "Your family's nuts. I've had a lucky escape."
You remember that?
I don't really remember what Todd's motivation was behind this, aside from the fact that maybe he's still a bit hurting because of his scar, and that was partially caused by his mum throwing him out the previous year. I don't know.
He was just very villainous.
It feels like a bit of a David Platt move, doesn't it? I
maybe
could see
they were
him
trying
doing
to
that.
maybe they were trying to do a parallel thing where both women had evil sons.
But the thing is with Todd, he was like, what, in his early 30s at this point when this was going on?
he?
It doesn't
guess
work
so.
quite in the same way. Anyway, she isn't on the shelf for too much longer, because then Michael, as we said earlier, swans his way into Eileen's life after moving out of Gail's. And this is after that epic scene when he realises through looking at the photo album that the fake son that he's been thinking is his real son isn't actually his real son.
I just love this
You know
so
what I'm talking
much.
about there. And
That
then
scene was brilliant.
and Gail had been kind of colluding in the fact that Gavin and Andy were different people. So Michael ends up walking out on Gail, spends the night with Eileen, but when they're about to get jiggy with it, he has a heart attack. So he goes to the hospital, comes back to number 11 to recuperate, and Gail and Eileen then clash in the street. And this was their second big fight. Do you remember this salon fight that they had?
Yeah.
So this was many years after the first tumble on the cobbles that they'd had. And it was 100% kind of an allusion to that, wasn't it? It was a nod to it. And an
tribute.
attempt for round 2.
Like how Elsie and Ina had High Noon twice.
Yeah. I never felt that it quite lived up to it in any way, because it felt like they were trying to just recapture the magic of their first fight.
Like a sequel, never
and
as good.
It didn't work, and I think they were throwing shampoo at each other, or Gail did at Eileen, and then they go onto the street, and it was all right. But yeah, I think by this time Gail was becoming a bit pathetic, and she didn't have that oomph that she had, that fire in her belly that made the first fight quite so good. But anyway, Eileen and Michael start dating after this, but he doesn't really enjoy the fact that she's rubbing Gail's nose in the fact that they're going out together. And one day Eileen starts getting suspicious when Michael starts doing the odd jobs for a female customer at streetcars. But then when she nominates Michael for Good Samaritan Award, Weatherfield Good Samaritan Award, she's rightly proud of him, and she accepts the invitation to the event on his behalf. But at the ceremony, it turns out that this customer was one of his ex-burglary victims from back in the day, and the woman finds out and embarrasses Michael at the ceremony, so it all goes a bit wrong for them at the end of the year.
Oh dear.
And that's the end of that. So into 2016, Gemma, back to you.
So this is when Sue Cleaver was training to be a psychotherapist, and she was also doing
you're right.
an agony aunt spot on, and she had like a spot on this morning and a column.
Yeah,
in a magazine.
she'd been training to be a psychotherapist for a few years,
that
and it's
sounds so
really
good.
kind of
I'd like to do
interesting
that.
because that's maybe where the beginnings of her current. You can be your best you can be kind of
Self-improvement.
yeah.
That's
where it originates from.
Like turning to oneself for fulfillment.
Yeah. And I kind of forget as the years went on that she was kind of dabbling in this, but it makes sense because apparently she had therapy herself once, and that inspired her to train to become this. And yeah,
Good for her.
Yeah, so early 2016. You're right. She was on This Morning, and she had an agony aunt kind of in a magazine or something as well.
But on the show, Eileen probably could have used some therapy because she spent the year getting involved with Pat Phelan.
Yes, this is when Eileen's probably final big story started kicking off.
Yeah, so Pat Phelan's been on the show for a while, but at this point not really has anything to do with Eileen, but Jason takes him on at the yard, and so he starts to charm her mum.
He'd been mostly around kind of the Owen, Anna, Gary kind of story up until this point. So he'd already kind of made a name for himself as a bit of a bad lad on the street, but he was also quite the charmer as well, which is how he was able to get away with his villainy for so long.
But Michael gets annoyed because Pat Phelan's sniffing around Eileen, and so she dumps Michael for being jealous. And Anna's meanwhile trying to say, watch out, this guy is trouble. But she thinks you're just bitter about what's going on because Pat tells Eileen that he and Anna had slept with each other and it was a one-night stand. And we know the truth, that it wasn't that at all. And so Sue Cleaver says of this relationship with Pat, she says he's given her no reason not to disbelieve her. Everything he's told her about his past seems completely legit, and he's been nothing but a gentleman to her, so she believes everything he says to her. Why wouldn't she? His version of events makes perfect sense to her. He's very plausible, so she believes him.
I really like, looking back on it, how much Eileen's story mirrored Gail's here with Richard Hillman. And I think that Eileen was the perfect person to pair Pat Phelan up with, partly because of that. Because she'd always made fun of Gail for her disastrous love life and how she couldn't even tell a serial killer that she was married to. And then she just walks straight into the exactly same trap as herself.
Yeah,
and
love it.
And the sort of things that Sue was just saying, as you said, about Pat, like, he was very plausible, so was Richard Hillman.
Absolutely. So this is when Tony dies, Jason's dad, and Jason's taking out his grief on Eileen about this, and so she's feeling quite alone, so she asks Pat to move in with her. Tony has his funeral, Jason makes up with his mum there, offers the job of controlling the builder's yard finances to Eileen, which annoys Pat because he was trying to steal money from the business account. So he persuades Eileen to raise the rent on Andy and Steph's flat, which then makes Michael mad because he can see exactly how crooked Pat is and nobody seems to be listening to him.
This was also I just think it was a brilliant mix of characters and circumstances. And as much as I didn't like the fact that Michael was wooed away from Gail by Eileen because I thought they were great together, it did put him in this brilliant tryst. That's not the right word. With Pat Phelan, and as Eileen's ex, it gave Michael this enemy.
Yeah.
And the Michael and Pat dynamic throughout this storyline was just brilliant, wasn't it?
I also think that Corrie is at its best when it's got a bunch of characters who are all at odds with each other for really plausible reasons.
Yeah, that's what this was.
And it was everybody's working for their own interests, but they all are in conflict with each other.
And Michael and Pat were such different characters, weren't they? Because Phelan was so confident and cocky and powerful, and Michael was
just a really good guy, but he was timid and not confident. But he had a heart of gold, and he would never hurt anybody.
And Pat was a big business fellow, used to dealing with huge sums of money. He lived in the massive mansion at the beginning, didn't he? And poor Michael had been thrown out by his family. He'd been reduced to petty theft to
Yeah,
to try and
he
get
was
by.
a victim of the market
The
crash
recession,
in 2008, I think.
Yeah.
So by August, Jason's gone to Thailand, but he's had an accident there. So Eileen goes out to see him, but when she comes back, she agrees to Phelan's request that she put some of her money as an investment into the builder's yard to convert some flats. She doesn't know that it's a scam, so she throws herself into this. Vinny is Pat's business partner, tells Pat that Eileen is interfering where she shouldn't be. He's absolutely furious. So Pat has to try to stop her from finding out the truth and eventually persuades her to go and work back at Streetcars. Then we have this really tense scene where he proposes to her. Is this on the...
No, I don't think he proposed to her on the roof, but I'm sure the rooftop scene
the
did
Calcutta
happen.
development. This is all part of that.
Yeah.
And
because at this point we know, although Pat's not killed anybody yet, I don't think, he's clearly massively dodgy, and the possibility that he could turn incredibly nasty is well and truly there. So when he takes Eileen up onto the top of the flats to say, look at this could all be ours, we could redevelop this, I remember thinking, God, is he going to push her over the edge?
We really were like, I think this was a great time in Corrie where I don't think spoilers were quite as rampant as they are now.
No.
And all the online stuff wasn't as...
It wasn't that there weren't spoilers, because there were. I think
definitely
that Kate Brooks, the producer,
had it on it.
Was cleverer about what she would and wouldn't reveal to people beforehand.
Well, it's not...
to keep us on our toes.
It's a different strategy, isn't it?
Yes.
Than it is now. So, then we get Vinny double-crossing Pat, running off with all the money. Michael dies. He's trying to find out proof that...
Oh, yeah. This is Pat's first
Pat
victim
watches him die of his heart issue. And Eileen is just devastated at this point because all of the money's gone. Everybody blames Pat for all of this.
Well, people are starting to blame Pat, aren't they?
Well, he's holding the bag, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it moves on to 2017, and Eileen's story really is mostly just Pat's story.
Yeah, pretty much, and because she's just had the wool completely pulled over her eyes. So I was surprised looking back on this. I'd forgotten how quickly they got married. It was like a couple of months engagement.
Do you think this is karma for her being mean to Gail? Did she have this coming? Is this like a cautionary tale for all women? Like, you might be able to think you can spot an abuser, but you might be married to a serial killer and never know.
Their wedding was great though, wasn't it? Because this is the one where Pat, on the morning of it, had just clubbed Andy Carver over the head with the laptop from the garage. Beautiful. And we didn't know what had happened to him. And he turns up at the wedding and he's got blood on his collar and mud on his shoes. And Brilliant. You just left to insinuate that he's buried this guy. And obviously we went many months thinking, this is what's happened. But then it turned out that he hadn't, because at this point he still wasn't a murderer, was he? And
no.
We went many years until he did properly claim his first victim.
Yeah.
He was just edging closer to being the same sort of serial killer as Richard Hillman was. Made the Gail and Eileen dynamic so good.
Corrie are cowards. They need to do a proper serial killer where they start off just murdering and just carry on from there instead of all this accidental nonsense.
What,
whoops! I accidentally killed somebody.
Sorry, Leo,
just
you're in a bin.
Just go straight out there. Just go straight into it. Get your hands dirty immediately.
So Eileen is married to Pat in early 2017, and she did go for a little while being Eileen Phelan, didn't she? Which
not a great name.
Doesn't sound right to me.
Eileen Phelan.
It's she's Eileen Grimshaw in all of our hearts, and I don't think it was long after his death the following year that she
updated the stationery.
Yeah, went back to the name that we know and love. Yeah, that was also the year early in 2017 where she won that electric car in the most weird incident of product placement I think Coronation Street has ever seen.
That was product placement. Yes.
It was like I can't even remember what the point, how they even tried to make it sound plausible in the show.
I don't even know.
Did she win a competition or something?
Yeah,
I remember
I
a
don't
load
even
of
know what
people
the brand
turning up.
was.
No, I remember a load of people turning up at the doorstep at number 11 saying, "Oh, Eileen, you've won an electric car." And then for a few years they had that car charger at the bottom end of the street, didn't they? But you're right, it was total product placement for ITV, and it's been dropped like a sack of bricks since then. It's peculiar, but fair play to her. At least she learned to drive throughout it, because Pat taught her how to drive. Basically, through most of 2017, Pat's just quietly getting on with his evil schemes while Eileen remains oblivious to the whole thing. By September, we've found out that Andy is still alive. He's not been buried underneath in a shallow grave somewhere by Phelan, but he's being held hostage in the basement of a house there. And Eileen nearly rumbles that there were so many brilliant tense scenes during that, and that one of them was Andy's downstairs in the basement, and Eileen comes visiting. I can't remember whether she's followed Pat there one time or something, and but Andy doesn't call out to her, does he? Because he's been
brainwashed, basically.
Total
He's got
Stockholm syndrome by that point.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So Eileen, because Pat said he's been working on this house, and he puts her off the scent of anything untoward going on by saying, "Oh, well, the reason that I'm spending so long here is because I want us to move into it." And Eileen thinks this is great, because this is this lovely big house away from the cobbles of Coronation Street. But sadly for her, her dreams go up in smoke when the house is burnt to a crisp. Now this is because Andy has paid 2 lads to torch it after dispatching of Andy and Vinny in another brilliant scene. We won't go into that because this isn't the Pat profile. And so Eileen has to resign herself to the fact that she's staying put at number 11 for a little bit longer. Do you remember when Anna Windass was in prison in late 2017? This is another one that to me feels like it was a while before that. It feels I don't remember much about Anna being in prison. This is after Pat pushed Seb off the ladder. Do you remember when he was doing his window cleaning? And
then he whispered to him when he was in the hospital.
Yeah, it was Anna Windass that done it. Yeah. So Anna was in prison and she escapes because, well, if you're in Coronation Street, it's basically a revolving door out of prison. But she was innocent, and she goes back to Coronation Street and tries to spring out on Pat, but accidentally hits Eileen over the head with a pair of bolt cutters because she thinks it's Pat that's coming in. But anyway, she's all right. She manages to get out of that one after a little spell in hospital. The end of the year, tragic times for Eileen. Her beautiful son Todd disappears very abruptly and strangely after Bruno Langley has to quit the show. Very mysterious, that disappearance there. Yeah, he abducts Summer and then goes on the run. The story in the show was that he was worried that Summer's grandma, Granny Spellman, was going to try and take her off Billy. But for other reasons that we won't go into now, it was indeed Bruno Langley having to leave the show. So Eileen's left sunless again. And it's just her and Phelan there at number 11.
Beautiful.
It was, but it didn't last, did it? They only had a few months
fleeting
of wedded bliss together at number 11. Well, we go to 2018.
This was the end of the Phelan drama. So Phelan's killed Luke, and he basically admits it to Seb.
Oh yes, he does. That was a great early surprise at the beginning of 2018. That one.
Seb tells Eileen. She visits Anna in jail to try to understand what's going on, but Anna can't really convince Eileen that she's in danger, but she starts to wonder when Seb gives evidence at Anna's trial, and then Anna gets sentenced to 5 years in prison. Then we get Summer returning to Weatherfield, but not Todd, who's hiding in a bush. Over the next few years, Eileen begins to... Well, she kind of sometimes remembers he exists and sometimes not. I think Ray was trying to decide whether or not they were ever going to have him back.
Yeah, every now and then you'd have Eileen going through patches of saying, "Oh, we need to find Todd," and then months would pass, and she
didn't bring him up
forget
at
he
all.
even existed. But,
and it was
you're
weird.
right, I think it was Coronation Street just trying to work out what are we going to do now.
It was really unfortunate because obviously Todd was kind of a helper of Pat's, but also not at the same time.
He was definitely quite a key player in the whole story.
I really wonder how it would have played out differently if we'd kept Todd in the show.
I know.
How would he have been an architect of Pat's demise? I'm not really sure.
Todd was, I think, I do like Gareth Peirce as Todd, but Bruno Langley's Todd felt like he was a bit more cunning and
Machiavellian.
scheming. Yeah. And that's just, there was a lot that this story had going for it, and that was just, which is why I think losing Todd, although it was a shame at that point, it didn't completely derail the story because it had lots of other great stuff happening. But you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have been
so many
interesting to have
people.
seen what Todd would have added to these final months of Phelan's story. Yeah.
Especially being, Eileen's son. But speaking of children, Pat's daughter Nicola, she moves away from the street. She warns Eileen that she's being manipulated by Pat, but she doesn't really. She kind of spends a few, months maybe being ostracised by everybody. She gets barred from the Rovers because she has a row with Liz because she doesn't trust Pat. There's also a bit
more and
where,
more people are starting to look at Pat and go, there's something not right
no.
there.
And Pat kind of skated by a little bit when Vinny dumped him in it because Eileen lost her money as well as everybody else on the flat developments. So people... Although they really didn't like Pat, I think that they thought he couldn't have been involved in it because of the fact that his wife was a victim as well, and so he kind of got away with it a little bit because of Eileen, because of her standing in the community.
Yeah.
They make up, and then we have this most
Liz and Eileen
make up, and they have this most hilarious getting to know Pat party, which is where we have the most hilarious. Clip of Moira
walking through
with all the, but also saying, "Oh yeah, I know you, this and this," telling everybody very sacred information from her job as a. Was that the same one?
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
Liz.
This is all Eileen just wanting to, desperate that people accept her and Pat as a couple because.
Yeah, because nobody likes them.
No, and she has wanted to. Yeah, she's married this man. She's obviously committed and feeling very serious about him, and she knows she's had a terrible history with blokes, and she's determined that this isn't the latest thing, and she wants to show to everyone, no, we're for keeps.
Yeah, so she arranges this party, get to know Pat, but on the night of it, Pat is actually engaged elsewhere. He is moving Andy and Vinny's bodies from the reservoir that's about to be emptied to a concrete pillar. During the rain, he also falls in himself, and Eileen ends up having to end the party with him never turning up, goes out searching for him, luckily finds him in the nick of time with Tim.
I remember thinking that was a little bit unlikely how they were able to find him.
Well, they did.
They did anyway.
Tim is suspicious of Pat at this point, and obviously Tim is working at the streetcars, so he's Eileen's co-worker, boss,
It's
whatever.
kind of interesting that Tim smelt a rat with both Phelan and Stephen.
I know.
He's got a nose to them, hasn't he?
He's ruining everybody's fun.
He
That's
is,
what Tim
isn't he?
is. He's a big party pooper, if you ask me.
Yeah, but it did lead to that great scene when they're in Whitehaven and Tim's phoning Eileen, isn't it?
Well, yeah, Tim's suspicious of Pat. He doesn't accept Pat's gratitude for saving him. And then one day, when he's in Tim's cab, Pat starts gloating about the flat scam, but unfortunately Eileen is listening in on this and agrees to not dob him in on the condition that they move away.
Yeah, so, I remember finding out that Eileen, to me it all felt like as soon as Eileen discovers what kind of a man Pat is, then it's all over for them.
It's
but
like a clock starts ticking.
Yeah, but she was so determined to make this work and kind of prove that...
Desperate for a man.
Yeah. And not back down or not look to feel stupid that she's ended up with this guy that's as bad as everyone's saying that she is. She agrees to do a runner with him, doesn't she?
Yeah, so Pat arranges a mini break to Whitehaven because this is a picturesque lighthouse there that could do some dramatic scenes at, but actually his plan is to leave her there and do a runner abroad, and while they're there, the bodies that he'd hidden are uncovered. Tim's phoning Eileen to warn her about Pat. She confronts Pat, and then this is when we have that famous scene of her Like, he's clinging onto the side of the cliff and she's stomping his feet to try to get him to fall into the sea.
Yeah, they're up against the lighthouse, aren't they? And he leans against a railing
It's
that's
like,
a bit wobbly.
This is the darkness and the light speech.
Yeah.
And it's all so dramatic and
Well, I was
atmospheric.
gobsmacked by how many viewers that got. And this was back in, when were we now? 2018. And that was 9.38 million viewers. Nearly 10 million viewers watched this. In relatively not long ago, and Corrie's not even getting half that number of viewers now, and it just kind of went to
start
show
that again.
I know, but you know, Corrie was kind of regularly
They're
getting
on YouTube now, Michael.
I know Corrie was regularly getting in the 7s and the 8 million viewers around this point, but that was, we loved the Pat story, and as much as everybody criticised it for being too dark at the time,
Lots
it
of
really
people
got its hooks
really
into
liked it.
yeah, and
Sorry.
and that was one of Eileen's last kind of big
this
dramatic
was
moments
probably her
that
last big
she'd
story.
ever had, really.
This was probably her biggest story of all.
It probably was.
Yeah, I think it
Probably
was.
was. But yeah, that scene of her stomping on his hands into the sea, I was gutted briefly because I didn't want Phelan to ever die. I just wanted him to stay terrorising the street forever because I loved him. But also, I didn't want Eileen to be a murderer. And I think that's one of the reasons why they had him turn up alive again, because they didn't want to have Eileen go down as somebody who, justifiably maybe, soap justice. I don't think they would have wanted to have tarred her as being a murderer, do you?
That's so funny because, she did. If he had died there, that would have been her killing him.
Yeah,
But
she could have saved him.
I never ever thought of anything other than she was kind of dispensing the justice of the universe in a way.
Do you think it was
Completely unlike Anna when he stabbed her. She stabbed him. That was wrong.
Do you think it was out of character for her to do that?
No.
She can have a bit of a temper on her. We've seen lots of times before, and it's mostly, if Todd has been an idiot or Jason, then she can go crazy on them. And I think after all of this, and especially after everyone had been telling her that Pat's a bad lad, and she's realised that they've been right all this time, Gail's been right all this time, she's been made to look an utter fool, and sometimes you just take leave of your senses, don't you? But I am glad that he was saved.
This was very in character for her, I think. Just vengeance, but like not super violent. Just stomping his. He stomped his feet and stomped his hands, so he couldn't hold on to the side. So it wasn't really murder. It was just letting gravity take control.
I think it was only like one episode later that the viewers found out at least that Pat was still alive, because this was over an Easter weekend, if you remember. I think this happened on a Good Friday, and it was Easter Sunday or Easter Monday. The episode ends, and we see that he's washed up in some Irish B&B somewhere or something.
Loved it.
So we knew that Eileen was not a murderer, but as far as she knew, she was.
Yeah, so she goes back to Weatherfield and she won't talk to anybody. People are asking her about the Calcutta Street development, but she gets questioned by the police and everything, but she gets released without charge. She secludes herself in the house. She doesn't want to see anybody, but eventually Summer and Nicola get her to come out.
Yeah,
and
dehermitise herself.
She gets Seb to come and live with her as well. But then you said, Pat turns out to be alive. He doesn't go to Scotland, but he does a tour of Ireland and Wales. He ends up living in a caravan.
Maybe he was never in Ireland, I can't remember.
He gets accosted by Gary, who kind of beats him up in the caravan, drags him back, sticks him in this cavernous cupboard, which they've lost since at the yard. Who lets him out?
Jack.
Jack lets him out.
Jack lets him out, yeah.
He goes on a rampage. Again, this is not a Pat Phelan profile as much as we wished it was, but he ends up hijacking Michelle's wedding, gets stabbed by Anna, dies. Nicola, with Gary's baby, goes to Bristol, and Eileen goes with her as well. But she comes back a month later, obviously sick of Nicola. Relatively quiet for the rest of the year, and Liz is still in the show. She kind of is her support, being Liz's friend, getting involved in some of those stories.
We were talking earlier about Eileen finishing off Phelan, and I've got a quote from Sue Cleaver here where she talked about why it wasn't her ultimately that that stuck in the knife, I suppose. She said, Eileen struggled enough with the Whitehaven thing, and not admitting to that she had actually caused his demise there, so it couldn't have been Eileen killing him again now. This tied it up nicely. I had the closure on the storyline in the harbour. Eileen had no feeling for Phelan. She wanted him dead. She just wanted to get on with her life and just shut the door on him.
That makes sense.
Ultimately, I think Anna getting
Anna
the final
deserved
say
it.
probably was right, as much as it pains to me to admit it, because...
she wasn't our favourite character.
Anna was not our favourite character.
And Pat was, and so having her, get the better of him at the end did annoy me, but it was poetic justice. And I think Sue Cleave's completely right here in saying that, it's not a Scream movie. You can't keep killing the villain, the same character, killing him over and over again. You had to have somebody different, so it made sense.
Do you think that the story would have been better had it ended in Whitehaven?
No, because we all felt like there was something missing from that. We all knew. I think everybody knew that Pat wasn't dead, even though Corrie really wanted us to think that he was.
For
the
a few
story
days.
didn't feel like it was finished, and so he had to come back to the street. He had to have his final reckoning and try to take people down. And
it's a shame because the Whitehaven fall was a much better, in my opinion, set piece than what we got in his final episode.
Well, that's only because we don't like Anna and Michelle.
Well, no, it's obviously visually a lot more spectacular, wasn't it? Location shoot,
but
at night.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, but also the ending he did get was more soapy.
What do you mean?
Well, the white, the lighthouse, the darkness, the sea, the fall, it was all very cinematic.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It's not soapy.
So
soap is like shooting someone at their wedding while they're writhing around on the floor getting stabbed by your evil rival, and she gets to say something like implausibly turns up for no reason even though she's supposed to be in prison.
Yeah.
It was soapy, like, and as much as I love soaps, you have to say, if you describe something as soapy, you acknowledge there's a tiny bit of nonsense that's been injected.
Well, the nonsense with Anna as well was that she definitely did not stab him in self-defence.
No!
And she's completely got away with it because Michelle's keeping her secret.
Yeah.
So Anna is definitely walking around a murderer.
Yeah, just like Gary.
And Eileen's not. She's just a near murderer and a stomper, isn't she?
Yes, what a stomper.
Do you remember Jan?
Yes.
Jan,
the world's oldest Pokemon trainer.
You said because...
I always call him that because he had a little backpack and a baseball cap.
We say that the Phelan drama was Eileen's last big story, and I still suppose it was her last big story, but this is what I would say is her last medium-sized story.
I think I agree with you.
And it was the following year. We're into 2019 now. And I've got very, very fond memories of this. Yeah, Jan was a builder, yet another builder. She's obviously got type.
Yeah, she likes
But from Poland, Jan Lazinski was his name. And Eileen ends up going on some dates with him, taking him in as a lodger. But suspicions are raised about him when Elena, who is the nail bar slave from Romania, who's been very valiantly rescued by Seb, I think it was. She sees Jan and looks a bit nervous around him. Because it turns out that Jan is kind of semi-involved in the slave trafficking from Romania, isn't
But it wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault, but we go for a little while thinking, oh, he's a bad guy. Liz and Eileen, we see him check his background online and finding out that he was convicted of drug dealing once as well. But Jan said, oh, look, I had to do it to support my mother.
She's a drug addict.
And then eventually viewers learn that Jan is working with Rachel, the evil nail bar owner come trafficker. But we see kind of a bit of his good side as well, don't we? And there was a scene where Seb gets attacked by some of Rachel's heavies, and Jan drops him off at the hospital. Do you remember? And we go, well, is he good? Is he not good? Well, it turns out that he is a police informant. And this is I love this twist because although he'd been involved in some dodgy stuff, what he was doing was he had a good reason for it. Yeah,
I mean, Coronation Street loved this so much they brought Spider back as an actual police officer instead of just as an informer.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of wish that Jan had just been a police officer.
Jan was
Wasn't
such a nice guy.
He was involved in. Was he not involved in Polish something or other?
What do you mean?
I loved him. I thought he was great.
We only got him on screen for what, 3-4 months maybe.
Bring him back.
He looking back on him, I kind of think of him as being quite similar to Dennis, who I also class as one of Eileen's most well-suited guys, because he was definitely quite a tough guy, wasn't he? He was quite burly, and he was a very manly man.
If I said lumberjack,
yeah,
and I said he's not Canadian,
very testosterone
you would know.
filled.
You would see Jan,
and he's the kind of guy that could be quite intimidating. Again, all of these things you could say about Dennis, lovely beard, but actually he was a bit of a softie, and he had a heart of gold, didn't he?
and also he had a ponytail.
Yeah,
That's how you can
unlike
tell
Dennis.
if you're super manly. You get away with a ponytail and a beard. I do like a man with a ponytail and a beard. I think that is the height of masculinity.
Oh well, I've got neither.
No, I know.
I think lots of people. I'm not going to put words in other people's mouths. I don't remember what the general reaction to Jan was online.
Do you know what Jan?
I just remember that we thought this guy is absolutely perfect for Eileen, and I hope that they spend forever and ever together.
I
Alas,
think
they cannot be.
that Jan is what they wanted Stu to be like.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because they both had beards,
Yeah.
and that's the end. No, I mean, they both had beards. They were both, on the wrong side of the tracks. They were very masculine, but also very fatherly, and kind of like they had this gentle male
he did
presence.
have a gentle giantness
Like,
about him.
I will not hurt you, but if somebody tries to hurt you, I will get them with my hatchet.
I don't know whether Stu would.
No, I know, but that's what I mean.
Whack
I
him with his guitar.
I liked Jan so much more than Stu. I wanted to like Stu, but there was just something about him I never caught on with. And it's a shame, because I think that Jan deserves so much more.
I don't know
I
whether...
really wanted him to come back.
I don't know whether I'd say that Corrie did a terrible job or a brilliant job with Jan, because they did do so. Corrie, when they want to, can make us really, really love a couple, seemingly with very little effort in very few
How do they do
episodes. And other times they can try and string along a couple, and it's like, this doesn't work for me at all. But I thought that they were absolutely perfect for each other, but he didn't last, did he? He tells Eileen, eventually, once all the nail bar salon trafficking is over, he tells Eileen, like, I've got to go into witness protection now, please come with me.
Yes, why didn't she go?
Well,
why wasn't
Sean
this her
persuades
exit
her not to.
storyline? Sean can get in the bin. Why wasn't this her exit? Honestly, I
Sean
totally
convinces
forgot about
Jan not to
Jan.
go, and so Jan and he persuades Jan to go off without Eileen and say, oh, she'd be leaving all her family and friends behind. Off you go, Jan. And Jan was such an honourable sort. He's like, oh, you're right, Sean.
Yeah,
this
I
is the
remember
best thing
him
to do. And
walking through a big yard.
Yeah, and off he goes, and we've never seen him since. And that did lead, rightly so, to Eileen falling out with Sean for a little bit. But I don't know what... See, back in 2019, I don't know whether Sue Cleaver had any kind of thoughts that she would be leaving at that point. I certainly would have been very sad to have lost her then. But if I think back to, what's the best we've got out of Eileen in the past 6 years, I don't know.
Who's the best man she's ever been with?
Well, I've said earlier.
And why was it Jan?
I think it was Jan and Dennis are pretty close up there. But
I've just looked up this actor. It's called Peter Bowman.
Yeah.
And I can't do a Polish accent, but that's as good as I can get. And apparently, he is a underwater filming cameraman with a degree in marine biology. So he could have also...
Could have played Jude Appleton.
He could have. But I think you'll find that he never was and never has been a marine biologist.
A police informant. I wrestle with, would I have preferred Eileen now to have gone out in 2019 and we'd have missed the last 6 years of her?
Not gone out here, but have him come back. And I know that he's acting, because he's still got credits.
Eileen going off with Jan, I think, would probably have been my dream exit for her in 2025.
His last credit was in A Bear Named Wojciech, which I think is that.
That sounds foreign.
I think is that not the war bear?
I don't know. When was that?
That was the last year.
So he's definitely still in the biz and still acting.
Yeah.
If they'd have had him come back, I mean, it was nice what eventually happens to Eileen going off to Thailand with Jason, and it's all very family first,
feminism, etc.
And she doesn't need a man. But it's when
He's
he
got
left,
a beard and a ponytail.
when he left, I thought, oh, this has surely got to be temporary. And I get it that, he's got to go on his witness protection, and he's like, oh, I can never sue you again if we go
yeah,
on.
his accent was great.
But that doesn't mean anything on Coronation Street.
No.
And the Nelson/Harris family were supposed to be in witness protection
Just
forever.
kill off the people.
And that they didn't. Like, he could have come back and swept her off her feet. Even if, I'm sure they could have figured it out and had him go to Thailand with Jason there. Or maybe Todd will get a phone call from Eileen one of these days and say, oh yeah, Jan's just turned up. He just happened to be holidaying in Thailand. And
why couldn't he have busted an international drugs gang that was working out of Thailand with Eileen?
Or his witness protection could have put him in Thailand.
Yes.
He could have been he
Yes.
could have been sent halfway around the world to try and escape.
There's no
these
reason
evil
why
traffickers.
the Manchester police couldn't have paid for a Polish immigrant to go on to Thailand to spend his retirement with his girlfriend.
Yeah, but maybe
no reason at all.
Maybe it would have come across as too similar to Gail, who also had her kind of
true.
soppy ending.
I do think they probably sat down and thought, we've got to make this different. We've got to make this a bit different.
Yeah, because it would spin the narrative that the only way that a woman can have a happy ending is if a man comes and rescues her.
I agree. But I do think it is weird, because I could definitely have flipped their two exits and had Gail go without a man to Thailand and had Eileen run off to France with her Polish boyfriend.
Yeah.
I think it would have made more sense to me, because I do think that of the two, I think Gail has always been desperate for a man to take care of her, and I think her finally coming to the understanding that she doesn't need that would have been really empowering, whereas Eileen, I think, has always just begrudgingly been a straight woman. Like, I don't want to be in love with men, but I just like their beards and ponytails.
Oh well.
What
can't
can you
change
do?
it now.
It's already been done.
So we're now into 2020, and a lot of what happens with Eileen now just is part of other people's storylines, I suppose. I mean,
isn't that our stories? All of us, aren't we all just part of everyone else's story?
So 2020, everything went a bit funny in that year, didn't it? What with COVID and all. Sue Cleaver went. Do you remember she went down the old pink hair route? I was doing a bit of Googling the other day when I was putting these notes together, and I was like, oh yeah, that's her with pink hair, same as... No, Alexandra Mardell went purple, didn't she? I can't remember who else went pink, but sadly it didn't see the transition to Coronation Street itself.
I never got that symptom.
No.
So Eileen applies for a telesales job at Underworld, but she gets pipped to the post by Alina, who makes a surprise return to Weatherfield, and obviously will never come back, even though she's left her son Doran here now. I wonder whether Jan could come and help Doran remember his Polish roots, even though he's from Romania.
Maybe.
It's completely different.
Eastern European roots.
Right. Eileen gets involved in the Jeff storyline, but she doesn't believe what he's saying about Yasmin becoming an alcoholic. And
I think it was like Eileen and maybe Kathy were two of the characters on the fringes that didn't feel that everything was quite right with Jeff, but ultimately didn't do enough or do anything to
kind of influence to do much about it.
So then Eileen was feeling guilty at the end when it all came out about what a nasty beast he was.
She tells Alia about the fact that Yasmin was locked in this magic box, and then when Jeff gets stabbed by Yasmin, this is when Eileen and Kathy think that he kind of had it coming.
Yes.
And then also Eileen shocks Tim because she stands by Yasmin, and obviously Jeff is his dad, so he's on his side.
Streetcar spats.
Eileen goes off to visit Todd in Thailand.
Oh, not Todd.
Jason.
Mary
sees...
I wonder how many trips to Thailand Eileen actually had in the last 10 years, and how many of those were facilitated by Jason having an accident, because we've already had one, and I'm sure there's one more still to come.
Oh, would you like to go to Thailand?
Not first.
I really want to go to Thailand.
Come back a hippie like Gail did with some braids.
Yeah. So Eileen goes to visit Jason. Mary sees an email that he wants £1,000, or is it Todd?
No, this is definitely Todd.
Well, you've written.
I'm just
I can't trust
confusing you
anything.
in my notes here. This is the beginning of the welcome back, Todd, with your new face.
Todd's asking Eileen for money, so Mary, Billy, and Sean start to hunt him down, and they realise that he's been trying to scam this gangster.
Gay Mick.
Because there's an article about it in the Gazette. Eileen reads it online. She video calls home. She wants to know what's going on. She comes back to Weatherfield. She makes an appeal for Todd. He gets in touch to meet up with her. She manages to scrape up all the money to pay Mick off, but he carries on coming after Todd.
As part of this, we find out that Todd had dated Mick at
Yeah,
one point
Mick's got
as well.
a husband called Eric, and they're all... and Eileen says, if you leave Todd alone, I won't tell Eric that you had an affair. And then
It was all very clumsy, wasn't it? It was a way of how can we get Todd back into the show in a dramatic way.
A COVID cobble, wasn't it? Like, what do you want them to do? They had a year planned out and they couldn't do it.
Yeah. I thought, yeah.
Well,
It didn't quite work, but Todd's back, everybody, and he's got a new face. This is also towards the end of the year, we start to see George getting a bit flirty with Eileen as well.
nice.
It's funny how we've talked about Eileen's romantic
Yeah.
partners over the years, and George hasn't got a single mention.
Never
yet.
once considered him at all as any kind of real
No.
challenge. Even to Jan, who was there for like 3 months.
No, I don't think I ever really bought into their relationship.
I didn't either.
It really just came across as a let's put these characters together kind of thing.
George, to me, really has a missing surname on the show, and that is Clooney, because I do see him as a bit of a player, a bit of a bachelor, a bit of a ladies' man. Yeah, I don't think he should ever be tied down.
He was
Not
just a
even
bit
to a
useless,
international
Eileen.
human rights lawyer. I still think he should be single and just selling his Nespresso pods.
So this was, I think, George's first year on the show, and towards the end of it, it clearly came across to me, at least, as Coronation Street people thinking, well, Eileen needs a man, we've got this new character in, let's put them together.
Now,
they to me, they just weren't that suited.
I just need to defend Coronation Street a little bit here on the needing a partner, because it is a bit tiresome, and I think we all agree that a lot of the times soap characters get thrust into relationships that don't feel authentic. But on the other hand, just the way the soap works, you have to have somebody to talk to. You have to have somebody to be a partner in scenes, whether or not that's a friend or a business partner or a boyfriend or girlfriend. And I think that Corrie really always has this impulse to like partner everybody up so that they can give them a bit of stability. Because the other thing is, if you're not in a relationship, everyone's asking who you're going to end up with.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being a single woman at a wedding. Everyone wants to know who you're dating, who you're going out with, what are you doing, what's your life plan. If you don't have one, then you need to account for why on Coronation Street is just the same as a nosy aunt.
I was looking around for more Sue Cleaver quotes, and I found quite an interesting one from just the end of 2020. It's about Jason coming back, and this ties into what happened at the end. She said, yes, it's 5 years ago, I'd love Ryan Thomas to come back. I do keep badgering him all the time, but he's become a social media influencer, and he's just had another baby who I haven't met yet because we're in lockdown, but I'll be on his case for the rest of eternity. And that's
And
what,
she
and
was.
She was.
She did it.
She did it. She got Jason back in the end. Right, on to 2021, which is just more on and offness with George, really. The year starts off with Gail discovering that she and George have got a fanny in common, so they're distant relatives. Eileen's well jealous of that. So she tries to ingratiate herself to George by offering to drive his hearse for lovely Gay Ted's funeral, Gail's dad. And that ends up in a bit of a farce, doesn't it? And lots of people were not pleased with this because she ends up driving over Ted's wreath, and this tied into lots of fans' fears that having a undertakers on Coronation Street would just lead to some insensitive moments, which it has.
Yes, it has.
It doesn't feel that they can have a normal, straight, sombre funeral at Shuttleworths. I think they just do the novelty words. I can't remember. There was a mention of it at some point in the
They're
past
always
week.
coming out and saying
we had
some
one widow
nonsense.
in today who wanted
Yeah.
her husband buried vertically in the ground. What's it like? Honestly,
I know. I don't know what to say.
Anyway, Eileen ends up finding it quite funny that she ran over lovely Gateshead's Wreath, so that infuriates
Which, you know,
George.
is Gail's dad.
Yes, yeah. George says, "Look, I don't want anything to do with you anymore." But
She says funerals aren't funny unless
Yes.
it's me making the jokes. Toots.
Todd ends up getting a job in the Undertakers that year, and Eileen offers to help out too when George ends up breaking his wrist. Then there's this whole heat pump debacle
Take a shot.
with Todd in the summer, and I don't want to go into that because
Do you think that was
definitely dull.
Do you think that was a product placement?
Could well have been, couldn't it? But it led to Eileen disowning Todd. Basically, she tries to set up Paul and Billy to because he wants Billy all for himself. So it's dull. But George ends up letting Todd keep his job despite being a villainous sort, and then he kind of warms to the idea of going out with Eileen, and they're properly dating by the end of the year. Although it almost didn't work out because Eileen doesn't like the idea. He overhears her saying that he's working with corpses all day, and she said it makes her skin crawl. So he calls her the most cynical, rude and unpleasant woman he's ever met. And I think
She is a bit.
She is a little bit, isn't she? Yeah, isn't she? Yeah. I
think I am as well.
Do you think that Eileen would really be that bothered by dating an Undertaker?
No.
I think she's fairly kind of
Practical.
yeah. Sometimes it's one of these things that's just got to be done, hasn't it?
Yeah. I can imagine her knitting at at the gallows.
Yes, I can as well.
Yeah,
Actually.
her and Blanche
Yeah.
and Evelyn.
Anyway,
Whereas she's just there because she wants the warmth of the crowd. Whereas Evelyn and Blanche are there for, the dramatic effect.
they're back together again by the end of the year because it's Christmas time, and what better present to get your new love at Christmas than a full-on funeral plan? And this is the beginning of at least 2 Christmases where George makes a bit of an arse of himself by his present choice. You also got a little comedy hijinks storyline with Pat's ashes, didn't we, at the end of 2021 too, where George reveals that he's got Pat Phelan's ashes, and Todd falls over with them and spills them everywhere, and basically Eileen ends up telling George to just put them in a dog poo bin on the red wreck, and he does. So
It's disrespectful.
that's the final resting place of the great Pat Phelan.
To Pat Phelan and dog poo.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the end
Also,
of 2021.
A funeral
We're racing
plan
through 'em now.
is a gift for your relatives, not you.
I know. There's so many things wrong with that, but he doesn't understand.
That was Todd and Jason's present.
What happens with Eileen in 2022, Gemma?
I hope he's added in a repatriation of the corpse now she's living in Thailand.
Yeah, good point.
Bet he hasn't thought of that. Anyway, so he in 2022 is reluctant to spend the night with Eileen because it turns out he's got a terrible snoring problem, but he ends up getting a CPAP machine. And we never speak of it again.
Eileen and George's storylines for pretty much all of their run together just ended up turning into like the C or D stories of a month, didn't they?
Yeah, not even the year.
No.
Sometimes not even the week.
And we don't get too many of that kind of story these days, to be fair. Everything seems to have to be, high octane,
What are we
soap
complaining
mag
about?
front stuff, or attempts at it. But yeah, they just never. They've not had a big story together, and when you think their biggest story is George snores, it's a bit of a sad ending to the character, really, isn't it?
You can't then complain when they put those stories in the show.
But I will at least say that they didn't completely idiotify her like they did with Gail.
But there was this really weird side quest for her where she has a vision of heaven.
Oh my gosh, that was the weirdest storyline.
This is probably the weirdest storyline a major character has had in the last 5 years.
This is definitely the sort of story that they would have done a lot more of back in the day.
This is the kind of thing that I come up with when we're doing a Patreon top 5 and I'm struggling for ideas.
Yeah, I don't understand this.
Do you like this? Did you?
No,
what did you
it was
think?
stupid. It was a 1 week long story of Eileen getting a complete personality transplant because she slips on a pumpkin.
She has a fight with Gail, slips on a pumpkin, hits her head, and she suddenly acts like she's in a cult, which is kind of foreshadowing for Leanne. She's very nice, she's got a sunny disposition, she's charitable, she tells everybody that she has seen the afterlife.
Part of it
and
is
it's
because
beautiful.
when she was laid out on the pavement, I think George wafted a vanilla slice under her nose or something, and there was some music playing, and she takes that. I just, in no way did it feel like anything that Eileen would. She would never come to that conclusion. What do you think?
It felt like it was a story written for somebody else.
I kind of get the idea of, oh, wouldn't it be funny if Eileen's personality changed, because she's notoriously kind of cantankerous and cynical and sardonic, and wouldn't it be funny if she was different? And I get it, but just the way that they got there didn't make sense at all.
In its defence, I genuinely think that if this had happened in the 70s,
I'll agree with you there.
everybody would have said this was legendary and iconic.
Maybe it is just because there are these kinds of stories are so few and far between, these little capering
It's
stories.
jarring.
Yeah, because, it's going up alongside, we're well into Ian McLeod's tenure now, so I can't remember what else was happening at the same time, late 2022. But everything was dark and miserable and very, very harrowing. So to have this story, it's jarring.
mentioned
You're right.
you would get demonetised on YouTube.
Well, oh yeah, probably. But it was just the strangest story, and it really did smack to me of we gotta use Eileen for something. We gotta pay Sue Cleaver her number of episodes that she's guaranteed this year. I don't get it. I do not know what happened with that. It's probably fun to film, but.
Well, there's
Not
there's
in
another
character.
blunder at Christmas when George buys Eileen a sofa, but he doesn't see how big it is, and it ends up being a doll's
House, yeah.
sized. So he tries to put a coffin in there as the actual sofa, but she gets mad about it. But then he does manage to order a proper one for Boxing Day, which is a feat that I think should be studied in schools, because I don't know how. I'm told reliably by DFS that if you want a sofa in time for Christmas, you've got to order it in October.
Well, George has pulled some strings, hasn't he? Must have some family
Obviously, all the
connections.
Boxing Day surplus
Yeah.
is plenty of free ones going.
But
he also gives her some tickets to go to see Jason, or Jason to go and visit her, but it doesn't matter. And Sue Cleaver at the end of the year does I'm a Celebrity, and she comes third
yes,
to be eliminated.
this was kind of the beginning of the end of Eileen's full-time I'm on Corrie as a staple kind of person, wasn't it?
I don't want
We'd
to put words into Sue Cleaver's mouth, but I get the impression without having read her book that she felt as though she was kind of tethered a bit to the role of being Eileen.
Yeah, and
then this is her dipping her toe into a world of possibilities beyond.
I think
But
I
she
don't think you need to put
started
words into her mouth.
with
I
her-
think that she's.
Well, I don't want to be wrong. I'm just going to say if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So I put it on me. But like her physiotherapy training obviously was bubbling in the back of her head, and then COVID maybe kicked her up the bum like it did lots of people, and she thought, I don't have to stay here, I can do other things.
Yeah, I definitely got that impression from her the last few years, that like it's a kind of now or never sort of time.
And with her also, she did last year, she was Mother Superior.
Yeah, and Sister Act.
She was bloody brilliant in that, so I'm really thrilled for her to kind of move away from doing choreo if that's what she wants to do. But just like everyone who's played a character I really like, I'm also sad to see her go.
Yeah.
And it really does feel like this marked the beginning of Eileen moving away from choreo, because she was only in like 39 episodes in 2023.
A lot of that was health issues, though, wasn't it? She had she had health issues at the beginning of the year. She was in ICU for some of 2023 as well.
Is this when she had sepsis?
I can't
remember
whether this was sepsis as well. It possibly was.
It was around the same time that Jack in Corrie lost his leg to sepsis.
Oh, that was
and then,
ages ago.
But was it around the same time, or did they just talk about that when she went on? She did appearances, because I just remember, her talking about it, and we
Felt
were
like she was never off Loose Women from about this point onwards.
They need to get me on.
Yeah, she was a bit of a poorly person during 2023, which meant that she could only do 39 episodes of Coronation Street. But I, as I say, get the impression that she was ready to spread her wings and try other things. And all we got to see of Eileen really of that year was coming back from Thailand, getting a bit suspicious of Sean's dentist boyfriend.
What happened to him?
Who knows? Getting George to start building model ships, and also
Which he loves to this day.
Yeah, I suppose it was Brian's Italian cousin. That was one of those weird stories, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a bit like, whose drugs are these?
Yeah. And she also isn't happy to find out that George has lent Glenda £5,000 to invest in Little Big Shots, but really she does nothing.
I think that George went off of model ships because his whole business is cramming people in boxes. And if you then pull a string and they kind of expand to 3 times their size, he's going to be in deep trouble. So it probably unsettled him on a kind of really fundamental level.
I think you must be right. I think you're onto something there, yeah. Also off screen in 2023, you had the whole scandal. Well, no, it wasn't a scandal. It was advertisers using Sue Cleaver's likeness in ads for keto weight loss gummies, because we saw that Sue Cleaver has been through a weight loss journey in the last couple of years, and part of it came down to being in hospital for a while and the health issues. Part of it was weight that she lost on I'm a Celebrity, and now these companies claiming that she was using keto dummies, and she had to go online and said, no, I've got nothing to do with them. I can't believe that AI can do this these days. This is terrible.
I'll tell you what, if AI could give me weight loss gummies and make me skinny, I would sign up.
You'd love to be able to be wrongly accused of using keto gummies, wouldn't you?
If somebody accused me of using any kind of nefarious goals, aims or methods to lose weight, I'd just be happy.
Just the fact that they thought to accuse you.
Unless I had some kind of horrible illness. 2024, she wasn't in very many more episodes, 41. So Dylan is found to have hidden Mason's zombie knife under his bed
at number 11
at her house. So she very reasonably makes them homeless. Him and Sean get chucked out. And she also gets in touch with Violet, who makes a return, which was very unexpected and pleasant for us to see Violet come back.
Yeah, but it's
mum of Dylan comes back to have a moan. Then she goes off to Thailand because Jason breaks his back in a moped accident.
He seemed very fine just earlier this year. I don't know how long it takes you to recover from breaking your back. It sounds to me like one of these things that you wouldn't just be trotting into the Rovers 12 months later. That, hey, maybe they've got some miracle doctors over there. I don't know.
Maybe we all need to move to Thailand.
Yeah.
So she gets back in October. Jesse's on the scene. And this is her ex-boyfriend who used to also be a magician and children's entertainer
or
and
a clown, as they rechristened him in this comeback.
He was a clown, and then they rechristened.
No, he wasn't. Everyone said this time he was a clown, but he wasn't. He was a cowboy, wasn't he?
No, that's right. He was, and he was General Custard.
And Eileen's sister Julie was his higher lower.
Yeah. They can't have that anymore.
They forgot about that this time, or they just decided that it's best not to.
Which is weird, because the most famous clown in history was a serial killer. So, what are you going to do? Anyway, Jessie Chadwick's back on the streets. She's not happy to see him dating Gail. She bitches her way through Gail's hen do, and then in real life, like we said, she ends up being Mother Superior in Sister Act, which we saw. Said hello to her afterwards. She releases her book, A Work in Progress.
It really should come as no surprise to anybody that her exit was announced. I can't remember whether it was towards Christmas last year or whether it was early this year, but we were kind of always thinking, who's going to be the next person to leave Coronation Street? And I don't know whether I ever said, it's definitely Sue Cleaver. I think it's because, to me, she always felt like a bit of a lifer, but the clues had been coming, hadn't they?
Yes.
So 2025 rolls around, and she's actually been in 66 episodes this year, so that's the most for a little while. And basically, her story this year is her exit storyline. Her sister Julie comes back. She's got cancer, because Corrie loves to throw that in there.
She doesn't just have cancer.
She's dying of cancer.
She's got terminal
cancer. So Eileen is obviously mega upset by this, but she and Julie resolve to do lots of fun things together and have lots of nice experiences before she pops her clogs. But alas, that death comes a little bit prematurely because Julie takes her own life by snarfing some pills, including some of Eileen's, before she shuffles off her mortal coil whilst on a trip to, well, it was filmed in Town Park, but I don't think it was supposed to be there, was it? So just to add a little bit of extra drama to the proceedings, as if it needed it, Eileen then got accused of murdering her sister by helping her with her pills, which was utterly ridiculous. And it was Brian, wasn't it, who was who had been dating Julie, and he was just a bit hurt and feeling somewhat accusatory after she died.
Who wouldn't?
Luckily, that all got cleared up. And she...
Just a big misunderstanding, really.
She, in amongst all this, starts to realise that George is actually kind of annoying and she can't stick him. And I did feel a bit bad for him because she... Yeah, like I said earlier, I never really brought those two together. I think there are a couple that I would have liked to have believed that they were a good match because he's a decent guy, isn't he? And I like her ending up with decent guys, but I just never really felt the spark in any way between them.
I know exactly what you mean.
But what's the difference between him and Jan, who was also a nice guy? He was just a bit more exciting, wasn't he?
If George doesn't feel like the kind of guy who's going to end up in a relationship a bit like Roy, and I'm not saying there's any similarity between the two at all, because I don't think there is, but I just cannot see either of them really ending up in a relationship that would feel authentic to me.
He's just oblivious to his partner's needs.
Because Roy obviously had one of the most enduring romances of all time with Hayley. But now I think that's behind him, and I feel the same way about George.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, it all kind of ends there, doesn't it? She decides to tell George that I love you, but only as a friend.
Do you think there is a George?
Off I go to Thailand with Jason, and now I'm living happily over the other side of the world running a bar. Bye. Even though she was the disastrous Rovers barmaid for all of about 2 episodes.
She would be terrible. We've said this before. She would be absolutely terrible in any kind of hospitality role.
I don't know. Maybe now she's over there, she's just regressed back to her post-pumpkin slippage personality, and all it needs is the complete removal of the stresses and strains of living in Weatherfield to unlock that hidden part of her. I don't know.
What, just like being chill and in sunshine would make her happy? It's
a bit sad that she's dumped Todd after all this time, but I suppose he can go and visit. I'm sure he will.
Who do you feel like was the best son?
I don't know, because I don't think there was lots of time when they were both in it at the same time.
I think you're
right. They came in together, and then Todd goes off, and it's just Eileen and Jason for a while, and then Jason goes off, then Todd comes back, which was why it was quite nice, even though it wasn't Bruno Langley's Todd, but we at least got to see a little bit more of that brotherly dynamic earlier this year when Jason came in.
I have to say that this character profile of Eileen has opened my eyes about what happened with her and her kids, because I really did not remember about when Jason was in it and when he wasn't, and I would have told you that we never did a podcast where Jason was a character in it.
Yeah,
which is so
he stayed
weird.
In it for quite a while.
And this is what happens when you do a show. When's our anniversary for the show? It's like now.
Oh yeah, next week I think.
13 years of doing this show. It's now becoming a significant percentage of the entire history of Coronation Street.
Yeah, I know. It's
like
true.
Not maybe in years particularly, but definitely in quantity of episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to lose track. I feel like some kind of biblical figure who's been living in a cave, and everything I've remembered about Coronation Street is a dream. You know what I mean? I'm not. You're way better at chronological stuff than I am. Like you were saying, oh, this year was when this happened and that happened. I couldn't tell you any of this.
I only vaguely remember. I make some of it up and just sound confident about it.
I make a lot of stuff up, yeah.
Anyway, that's the end of Eileen. She's Sue Cleaver has said, I've had 25 privileged years of working on Coronation Street. The door is still firmly open, but as I reached my 60th year, I decided it was time to embrace change, look for new adventures, and live fearlessly.
I do think the older I get, the more I feel like 60 doesn't feel that old, and she definitely has got a lot of life ahead of her to do and explore so many exciting new things, especially having seen her as Mother Superior. Even that character maybe is a bit too old for how old she is, but she played that so well. She's got great range.
Although
She
Maggie
could do-
Smith, she must have been. She can't have
You're-
been that
yeah,
old
you're
when she
right.
played her.
This is the secret. This is the Maggie Smith and Patrick Stewart school of always looking young, is to be old out the gate.
Yeah.
Shave your head, put grey hair on, and then people are going to be surprised you're still alive in 20 years.
I was always quite surprised to learn how old, I don't want this to sound bad, that Sue Cleaver actually was, because she doesn't come across as...
I don't think anyone's going to be sad to hear that they seem younger than they are.
No, I mean, obviously, yeah, like
60
when you're young, you think, 60, that's like really old, isn't it?
Well, it's not even retirement age anymore.
Eileen does not strike me as an old woman in any sense of the
No,
word. Yet my grandma
completely
died when
changed.
she was 60,
Yeah.
and she was, to me, very, very old, and she had curly grey hair.
It's
but
not
then equally,
just-
my mum died when she was 60 as well,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
didn't necessarily think that... But
It's not just about it's not just about children not understanding the age of people. It's also because people definitely aged faster
yeah.
because of various things. But Sue Cleaver definitely is in her Renaissance era.
Yeah, I'm really, really pleased for her.
She seems super healthy, very well adjusted, very optimistic, and very happy, and moving on to new things.
Yeah,
It's
she's
really
doing,
lovely.
She's doing some theatre very soon, actually.
Imagine having 25 years in your pocket of being a major character in one of the biggest shows in the UK, and then moving on to something even better than that. What a brilliant life she's got ahead of her.
I'm very, very curious to see what she does next. She's doing this Snake in the Grass play next month. It's going to be in Mould, which is in Wales, and Bolton. And she's playing a character in that. And who knows after that? Will she get other TV work? I don't know. Maybe. We'll have to see. Is she just going to be doing I can see her more going into kind of the hosting. It wouldn't surprise me if she doesn't get like a permanent or semi-permanent role on the likes of Loose Women or
Depends
This
on what she
Morning or
wants to
something.
do. I really think that kind of it's open
Yeah,
for
yeah.
her, which is nice.
Yeah, and can you foresee a return to Coronation Street at any time? I would say it's more likely than like Helen Worth going back.
Yeah, I think Helen Worth is like bye.
Yeah.
I think that if Sue Cleaver came back, it would be for like what Ryan Thomas did, like a week.
Yeah, maybe
When Todd
maybe when
leaves.
Todd leaves, Gareth Pearce will be able to beg her to come back.
I'm
But-
not sure that would happen, but I can't see her coming back for any length of time, really.
Well, she didn't have that many links on the street by the end, and it definitely, we got to say the long goodbye to her. It wasn't just a case of this character's leaving and you had to adjust to it. It was very okay, we've seen
it
her
was
number of
much
appearances
better
decrease
than-
over 5 years.
Yeah.
I feel at peace, even
Yeah,
though
you're
I love Eileen. It feels like we had a nice long exit for her.
I do feel like, I feel as though I've closed the door in a satisfied way.
Yeah.
I like the quote that Sue Cleaver gave about Eileen. She says, "I've always said that Eileen is every woman. Everybody knows an Eileen, and everybody just sees themselves in her and all the struggles she's had with her sons. I mean, maybe it's not so much the serial killers, but yeah, she's very accessible. Everybody recognises Eileen."
Yeah, and I think that's similar to what we were saying at the beginning. She's just a bit of an every woman character.
Yeah.
Feels like she could be living right down your street.
Yeah, I mean,
and embodies some of that feist and kind of not raucousness, kind of feistiness.
Well,
that classic Corrie women are made of.
these islands we live on, Ireland, the UK, Northern Ireland, I think it's inhabited with strong women like this who are no nonsense. They're probably not a great deal of fun unless you get them drunk.
But they're also a bit world weary.
Yeah, they carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and you kind of love them for how much they put up with but there's also this like fun loving streak, because when Julie came back and she said, I'm dying, Eileen did her best to facilitate her and make her final months on this earth as good as they could be, because she has got she's got this very human core, this lovely, beautiful soul inside of all of the world weariness. And it is funny because, you know, if Eileen is a similar age to Sue, we never knew her as a young woman. We only knew her as a middle-aged woman. She came in 25 years ago.
Yeah.
She was already broken by life. We never got to see her bring her children up. We
we can get a flashback for her.
I would really like to know more about Eileen as a young woman, because I think it would be very educational about
you're right.
what she's like
we've
now.
Missed so much of
she
her
must have
life.
just been kicked to the gutters. And what were her parents like?
Yeah.
What were Nan and Grandad Grimshaw like? They must have been horrible.
Well, we found out.
I mean, look at Julie. Julie was like the complete opposite of Eileen.
Didn't we have Eileen's dad? Wasn't he that guy that? Isn't that how
I don't know.
Julie came into the programme? And he was that.
Yeah.
Colin Grimshaw was he called? I think.
Maybe. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I'm struggling to remember that. It feels like so long ago. But yeah, it's all over now. And do you think that Todd is in more of a precarious position now? He's the only Grimshaw left on the street.
He needs to get with Theo and start having babies so he can secure his future.
Because even like with the house now, they're in a bizarre position because George is kind of digging his heels in, even though he's got no rights to. Theo and Todd are saying that they're moving out into the corner shop flat. And it feels like the time is right for a bit of fresh blood at number 11.
No!
And it's funny because that's been one of the houses that's seen, in my mind, the fewest changes over the years. Because it was Elsie Tanner's house for a good, 24, 25 years at the beginning. Then it had a little... Was it Alf and Audrey lived there for a bit? And then in 1989 we had the McDonald's moved in, and it was the McDonald residence right up until Eileen. So there's been, very little movement there, and it's... Yeah,
I do think maybe
it's time.
It is nice that Eileen ended up living in Elsie's house, considering the parallels.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, they ended up kind of retroactively making her related, didn't they?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, somehow.
I like.
That's the end of Eileen. Would you say that the Eileen that left in 2025 evolved from the 2020? Sorry, what was the first year? 2000 Eileen. Is she the same person at heart?
I think a lot of the time the characters get a bit diluted, and I do feel as though she was in the final years a bit of a dandelion on the wind. Mm. But at her core, I think she was an unchanged curmudgeon, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and I do like how in her final scene they harkened back to her glory days at the cab office by having the saluting cabbies lining the street of Coronation Street.
Here's a question for you listeners. How is Steve's share of streetcars worth less than Tracy's ownership of the florist, considering how many people it seems like he has working for him? You don't need to answer that question because it doesn't make any sense.
I was satisfied by her exit.
Yeah, me too.
Considering that, it's obviously very easy to just stick them in a cab and say off you go then.
Yep.
Giving her a salute was a nice tribute to her quarter century on the street, wasn't it?
Yes.
And now it's over.
Good for you, Eileen.
Just like this episode of the podcast.
Did good.
After 2 hours, I think we've said all we need to say about Eileen. And best of wishes to Sue Cleaver in the future.
Yep.
And best of wishes to Todd as he stays there as the final Grimshaw. And not even the original actor either. Right, all ready to go? Ready to finish? You said you were hungry earlier, so you better go and have our tea. Thank you everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed this little stroll and taxi ride down memory lane.
That will be £25.90. Thank you very much. I'll take card.
Do write in and tell us your lasting memories of Eileen. If you want, you don't have to. Ta-ra from me.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.